Yeah, Vinit, you can take over
Yeah,
this task.
sure. Thank you. Uh, Good afternoon, guys. I think everyone is here. Okay. I know it's a little difficult after having lunch, so try to bear with me for the next 40 minutes. Uh, I want to present a small microcap company called Sika. This operates primarily into aerospace and defense and into MRO divisions. So before going into the company's details, I just want to give a broader overview of the MRO industry and the triggers the aerospace industry as such. So before we dive in, I just try to give the value map of the whole aerospace value chain, just because it will again relate you better for the MRO structure again. So broadly, you can uh, classify the whole market structure into components, subsystems, and LRU manufacturers. LRU being line replacement units. And within MRO, there are again different types of MRO guys. Primarily, it's into four types. I'll come to that again. And then there are the end OEMs and final system assembly players. End OEMs being the top of the pyramid guys, Boeing, Lockheed Martins, and all. And there are technology service providers and system integrators. So I have marked over here in the uh, value chain map where Sika operates actually. So we can refer it back again. So out of these, where does Sika fall? Sika doesn't fall into a single category over here. It falls into MRO and as well as the system integrator part of it. And then, so what's driving the MRO? I think everyone might be aware of the scenario that's going on in India. Even the past speaker, we have seen the presentation where the airports number has been in 2014 was around 74. Now it has gone to 150 or some 150, 170-ish. And also you are seeing the like flights being delayed, whatever the factors that are coming at play recently because of the passenger traffic that has been growing by leaps and bounds. So massive infrastructure at play. Again, Indigo, you have seen 500 new Airbus planes they have ordered. And Airbus as well, after the new restructuring that is happening after the Tatas, they are announcing, I think, 570 as such. So put together, we currently have around 650, 670 narrow and wide body aircraft and another 300 smaller size aircrafts. So this industry, I mean, I would talk around in the 2031 timeframe because most of the reports point out to that frame. So in this frame, we are nearly almost doubling the size of our aircraft on the civil aviation part. And also on the defense side, you might as well be aware the growth triggers that are coming ahead. And we are almost nearly spending 250 billion in the next almost a decade and a half. We are going to spend, especially in the aircraft radars missiles. Okay. Again, also this is an industry where India has no expertise in. Predominantly, whatever the legacy issues we have, it's not the best manufacturing practices that we have been following. So this is sort of a complete rehaul. The industry is starting from scratch. So the opportunity set is maximum here. Uh, also, uh, Also, I just wanted to point out the aircraft manufacturing as a team. I mean, it's a duopoly anyway, Boeing and Airbus. So Boeing's order book also is more or less a similar, just like Airbus. But uh, if you look at Airbus outlook uh, that they gave, I think in last November or October, almost you can see the size. It's going from 17,000 to 35,000. 17,000, 35,000, out of which replacement and new ones entirely. So it's like doubling the size, entirely replacing and the new deliveries, the new demand that's coming in. So again, as I mentioned, what are the types of MRO? Broadly classified into four. Engine maintenance, typical, it's a long dated thing wherein it is inspecting engines. I mean, most of this is self-explanatory in nature. So again, engine maintenance, long dated, airframe maintenance. This is actually something, it's more of a wear and tear issue and something. So typically in engine and airframe, especially engine and the component, the barrier to entry is extremely high. It's not everyone's cup of tea to get empaneled with the OEMs. It takes typically 3 to 4 years to get empanelment and get things going on the ground. Uh, so again, line maintenance. This is where line and airframe maintenance. This is where the business is happening primarily in India. I'll talk about the players that are present in India as well. So airframe, line maintenance. And most of the component and maintenance business is being captured by the overseas players. So typically, this is how whenever aircraft lands, this is how the process goes. Line checks happen, aircraft checks. I mean, aircraft checks more or less are being done in India. We have some capabilities there, but again, engine component, these are extension checks. We don't have the capabilities. More or less, whatever the Indian aircraft, they send it to Singapore and some to Turkey and Abu Dhabi as well. So these are the global hubs. And again, on the same lines, as I said, like engine and MRO, you can see from the charts as well. Engine captures the most. It's the most complex thing. Almost 50% or 55% of the whole value capture happens over just in engine division itself. And also, I've just put in a slide wherein the growth of aerospace components that is visible over here, just because Sika is not directly, it's not purely an MRO player as well. It has a large exposure to component division as well. So again, engine, the thing with engines is extremely capital intensive, extremely skilled manpower. Uh, Typically, you have seen a trend where airlines have been the well destroyers and MROs have been well devastators as such. Usually, this has been a global trend. But uh, with respect to Sika, I believe it's sort of a hybrid. It's not, you can't categorize it purely as an MRO, neither as a component player. So think of it like you bought a plane where you have no metal of, like you don't have any idea of, and you want to run it. So you have to maintain it. And for that maintenance, you don't have enough skilled staff in the country available. So there has to be some bridge that has to occur here. So the bridge between the technology collaborations from the foreign OEMs as well as to the end user, that is being provided by Sika, especially in the defense and aerospace divisions. So MRO players in India, primarily Air India, and I think this report was I think in 2021 or 22. I think ATK and made it for Adani. So the revenues are still, I think, again, there's a lot of difference between domestic players and again the foreign players, because these are established brands as such. Good manufacturing prowess, good practices, established processes and such. And again, this is a fully government-owned entity. Now, I think government is trying to sell this. This is nothing but Air India's engineering services, the MRO division. I think this has. I was unable to find the sort of what do you call the revenue breakup for 2024. There has been an FY23's annual report wherein the revenue was around 2,000 crore and the PAT margin was incredible for them in that particular year, maybe due to the one-offs or something, but it was like 30% PAT margin. But I don't think that's sustainable. Typically, when I looked at Airworks and everyone, EBIT margins are to the tune of 15 to 20%. And majorly, foreign OEMs have some better edge over here with respect to revenue per employee and everything. And again, in the MROs, again, there are class A, B, C, D type of checks that I don't want to go into again. So, yeah, what have been the policy waivers? So in 2020, they have government has announced a big thing wherein for the. So again, I want to reiterate the MRO and the aerospace policies on the defense division are more or less sorted. But still, uh, there is some friction, especially in the civil aviation segment. Government is still working on it. So in the recent budget, you were able to see uh, the HSM classification was removed. I'll explain what it is. Homogenized serial number, wherein so they reduced whatever the components that you are taking from 18%, the GST on whatever the components you are importing or selling and anything from 18% to 5%. In the past, what used to happen was, consider you are an MRO player, you wanted to do some carpets with while doing the refit, but the carpet was considered as a textile, and that used to get classified again as into 18% different slabs. So they brought in a unified GST model, and they also are allowing total 100% FDI again. Uh, uh, Also, foreign airlines or anything that comes to India and try to get an MRO, that is being now considered as an export, so that avoids custom duty. Sorry. Uh, uh, Again, the royalties for hangars, some of them are being streamlined. Some again, you so again, MRO is a capital intensive business, as I said. So whenever you get an equipment imported, and again when you just import it just for the sake of a particular job work, and then you wanted to send it back to the OEM again. So for those, some policy waivers like extending those periods from 6 to 1 year, and for new products from 3 to 5 years. These are the things that the government has been trying to change. Let's see how well it fares going ahead. And the total market size. Okay. Uh, com, The whole MRO market size, I think it's around 2 billion in the current year, and it's poised to go to it's poised to grow to 4 billion, nearly double in the next 6 or 7 years. And again, defense MRO market, that too nearly a double. I mean, maybe 2 billion to 3 billion, 50% growth in the whole market space. And I just added the slide, like a picture here saying, like, we know the Indian defense air fleet is mostly Russian, mostly of Russian origin. But again, this emphasizes the need that there is some gap to be filled, especially with the technology gap, like the MRO gap that the Air Forces offer. Like Air Forces have a gap where they have to do they have to do the maintenance, but they don't have the required expertise. So this is where the bridge is coming. So I just put a slide over here again. Yeah. So on Sika, this is where the difference is. So it's not the typical MRO, a civil aviation side, but it is more into armed forces, especially Air Force. So again, the same point. I've added the capital outlay section from the recent budget. So you can see the capital expenditure actually grown 10%, even though the budget was only improved like 4%. But the catch over here is there have been multiple reforms that have been happening here. Some of which are, you might be aware, Make One, Make Two, Make One being 70% of the cost of prototype being funded by the government. Uh, Again, Make Two being 100% funded by the government. And then there used to be a structure called No Cost, No Commitment, NCNC trials, wherein you bear the entire cost and then you provide the uh, provide your product to the services, and they test and trial it. And it's sort of a proof of concept, but it may work or may not work, but the cost has to be borne by you. Now that has been changing. Make One, Make Two, so basically post Galvan, there has been a complete rehaul of the whole procurement process. The defense acquisition policy, DAP as such, has been done in 2020. From there, and also there are some restrictions, especially for SMEs. It has been a very good thing, wherein uh, they have restricted whatever that, like, if there is any order that has to be, I mean, any order which is less than 200 crores in value, that has to be given to only domestic players. So that has been a big boost for the SMEs as such. And again, the triggers for doing all this, especially given the geopolitical geopolitical issues that we are seeing currently. And recently, just a month ago, you guys might have seen there are the IAF chief, the DRDO chief talking rounds, just because we are still not even able to finish a fifth generation prototype. China has actually revealed a sixth gen jet. They have been testing. There are two prototypes that are flying. So they has been raising the raising the alarms across the country, especially on the armed forces. And again, for the MRO part, uh, did the policy changes affect something? Yes, I would say yes, because you can see some of these. announcements, and these are material announcements, not just stopping at the MOUs. The plans have been starting. I think Modi recently started like 3 4 months ago the Boeing's largest center in Bangalore. It's not just a basic assembly shop or any low end job. It's completely an R&D center, very high end job. So we have some expertise in design all these things, but we don't have the expertise, especially with regards to manufacturing. And no one would give us anyway. So obviously, why would they? So there are multiple triggers that are coming, and also states are trying a lot. States are competing. I think if you have seen the recent C295 just a month ago, I think December or November, the complex has been started. That will be the largest aircraft to be manufactured in India. I mean, from in independent India, I would say. So coming to Sika, I'll give a brief of the management. So this company was actually started in 1981 by Rajiv Sika. Not Rajiv Sika, RB Sika. I don't know the full name, but later what happened was his son Rajiv Sika took over. He was uh, I think he's also an aerospace engineer. He went to Strathclyde University in Glasgow, did his masters there, came back, took over the company in 1986. Then then got it started. And also the Sika family, Rajiv, Anuradha is his wife, and Kunal is the current CEO, current CEO who is actually running the show. And there are two brothers to Rajiv, Krishna and Sanjeev. There has been a small family issue in the past. I didn't deep dive as such, but uh, Krishna, like Sanjeev was fighting against Krishna and Rajiv, but these four guys actually own 70% of the business currently. And also, just to point out, it's mostly a family controlled business, but they have been hiring a few professionals from the industry. You can see Krishnadas Nair, he well experienced guy. I don't have to put it out. It's self-explanatory. He has been ISC, IIT Chennai, MSc Metallurgy, PhD again. He's also, I think, uh, he's also director of Indian Aerospace. So there's a Society of Indian Aerospace Technologies and Industries, SITE, the body. He used to be ex director of that institution as well. The Krishnadas Nair, and Krishnadas Nair actually holds like 1.9% of the company. And again, recent addition, again, Jaipal is also very veteran, especially when it comes to airworthiness clearances. Semilac is a DRDO standard for airworthiness certification. And GVS Bhaskar, again, uh, top standards ex-CEO, HAL helicopter facility. So they are trying to get professionals onto the board now, maybe trying to ramp up the processes, streamline a little bit on the ground, outsource some, and then go into high-end value chains. So, okay, coming to the company, what is Sika and what it does? So when you go to the annual report, I think they will classify it into four divisions, but there is very little about the company in the public domain. I would also say regarding the Kunal Sika was also the current CEO Kunal. He's also a BBA from Wisconsin University, US. He came back in 2011 and took over, and he worked in he used to work in PwC, Deutsche Bank, Goldman Sachs. So quite a career, especially into real estate, everything. So there is very little about the company, but I would say there is one AGM which has very little views. Maybe 400, 500 people watched it. Like 2022's AGM. It's on YouTube. I've also added a few resource links at the end of the slides. So again, Kunal, also you can see Kunal, the language, very diplomatic guy. Diplomatic language, you would typically know the coming from the consulting background. So coming to Sika, okay, what does Sika do? What products does it offer? The core offering structure. It's primarily into so in the annual report I said that it classifies into four, but when you attend the AGM, it is very clear what they're doing. It's primarily classified into three segments. but out of which the first two are the primary contributors. The engineering projects and systems, the projects. I'll walk you through what all are this by going through the next slides as well. So again, products and services. What products do they offer? Aerial services, aerial platforms, other than UAVs, aerospace MRO, armored vehicle upgrades, sorry, some communication channels, components, ancillaries, some electronics, and like medical, like rescue hoist in the sense that uh, there is this there is this term called SESIVAC, Medivac, wherein you evacuate people using some systems. So they also develop their own products as well. So again, over here again, the core projects division, the core projects and systems division. This is more of a end-to-end, long-dated job work, EPC, like job work EPC sort of a business. It requires multidisciplinary skill set of individuals because they have to build custom specifications. Not these are not off-the-shelf products. In short, project handling is sort of a custom built solution business. And the engineering products, they design their own products, and also they do get some repeat orders, and these are very short term short dated products. I mean, they have very low shorter business cycles as per the management commentary. And products that Sika work, I mean, also the project division also consists of most of the products that they work with international partners, more or less build to print, design to spec sort of products, and basic development, manufacturing, testing kind of process. And also, just wanted to highlight this. I think this is a landing gear. I think, yeah. So they actually won a landing gear project for UAVs. The DRDO is testing. They are not willing to disclose the name, but there's a big, I think, post engine. In an aircraft, after the engine, landing gear is considered to be the second most complex product component, so it's a big achievement. So they have started supplying as well. They mentioned they've won some order, and also on the order book, this company doesn't disclose very frequently. They update maybe once or twice a year, and maybe once in annual report. Nothing as such beyond that. So low disclosure, like low announcements, more or less uh, under the water sort of a company. And in short, I think you can see, and also see, company follows more or less a very very asset-led business. They avoid what they consider commoditized facilities. Let's say manufacturing of metal fabrication, machining, or electronic boards, uh, or any low because due to the nature of business, this is a very low volume, high mix sort of a business. So they only invest only in specific capabilities. I mean, as per the management committee, they are saying they focus more on the design, assembly, testing, integration, MRO. So more of a customization business. They believe man hours. They believe in man hours rather than in machine hours. Where they have to set up facilities and do the machine hours. So they're very clear that they don't want to sell man hours. Again, sorry, they don't want to sell machine hours unless there is some unique opportunity they want to invest. Also, they want to invest wherein they can't source the products, where it is difficult to source the products from domestic procurers due to supply chain or maybe quality constraints, or if there is some sufficient volume. And I do think you might be aware the post-COVID. We all know how the chips have impacted, and one of the most disrupted, or perhaps the most disrupted industry has been aerospace. The volumes that Boeing and aerospace have been producing, they are still not back to those levels of 2019. I think they will cross in 2025. So because it is quite complex, there are millions of parts that go into an aircraft. So again, they have some Coast Guard uh, Coast Guard products as well. The Coast Guard, Medivac, aerial firefighting, and this slide is a little interesting because these guys also have enough in, like, I think 52 engineers, sorry, 52 employees. That's what they showed in their annual report, and I think 80% is what the management mentioned are engineers in this. So I was just watching this wherein they were mentioning they have all the CAD, CAM, CATIA, MotorCAD, Autodesk, SolidWorks. So they're into design as well, the computational fluid dynamics, the finite element analysis, and all. And this is more or less a EMS division where they are mentioning there has been high competition lately, so they are avoiding unless there is some specific niche that they want to work on. And also, see, the most of the MRO business that's being done is very exclusive in nature. Company doesn't want to venture, as I said, into commoditized services where competition can fed when the opportunity set arises. So again, in short, most of these things you see here, long gestation periods, very lengthy customer approvals, regulatory approvals, that in itself, you might know is more for all these defense companies. So again, what's driving, what are the factors at play for the Indian industry? Not just Sika assets, but because the market, domestic market size is too big. And still, we are sending so many planes to Singapore, especially Singapore being very small. It's being flooded. SAIC is a big Singapore Airlines' MRO division. It's being flooded, and I think the capacity is peaking out over there as well. So many saffron, many companies have announced MRO, like not just announced, but they started the plants in MRO plants in India recently. And I think with time, just from the line and airframe maintenance, we will climb up the ladder to components and maybe engines in due course of time, maybe a decade from here. But as I said, MRO is very technology intensive. But uh, I want to highlight this because you can see the stark difference between the employee, the revenue per employee, because these guys have standard practices and established processes, the global players, and compare it to the GMR. And also GMR recently, I think in 2020, lost the EASA certification, which is the European Flying Standards certification because of some quality constraints again. AISL currently being auctioned. Maybe next year, the government would try to sell this. And also, there is a lot of consolidation happening in the industry. Adani buying Airworks recently for 400 million. There is a lot of large players have been entering. Uh, just a slide, you can, it's a self-explanatory thing again. And also, see, there has been, if India becomes, it's kind of a strategic location, right? If you think to the far left is the Middle East, and again to the far east is Singapore, then there is Japan, South Korea. So there is no middle ground. I think more for most of the Southeast Asia, uh, Singapore is a primary hub, but it being overflooded, India makes up for it. India, it's strategically positioned. So I think there is big opportunity as well. So again, with China, uh, they still do a lot of components for Boeing and Airbus, but the thing is, they have recently unveiled their own COMAC. So they are working more on that part. So I don't think if their markets get replaced with COMAC, especially for the single body aircrafts. So most of the MRO again from there might shift to us again uh, for for the geopolice. Uh, so yeah, again, why it is gaining traction and why kind of like this company. So from what I've seen, very clean management, trusted. Uh, Past record has been good, and industry tie-ups. And also, just to mention, these guys, Kunal Sikka, these guys have been. So there is a uh, body called CII, Confederation of Indian Industries, under which there is a small section called small section for subsection for defense manufacturers called SIDM, Society of Indian Defense Manufacturers. So Kunal Sikka has been very active participant over there. And, he's, I think, the president of Karnataka chapter. So you can see him in a lot of industry events, industry moderation session, moderation, lot of industry events. But it's you would barely find him in the doing con calls. I mean, not doing con calls, but in the media interviews and all. Again, growing industry tailwinds, self-explanatory. Again, on the order book, this is not the order book that these guys chase. Like it's typically niche order book, I would say. Usually 1 to 2 years sort of a time frame. And if you actually recently see the order book, it has grown to 264. Like, I think in December they have announced the order book, updated the order book to 264 crores, and the growth has been picking up. Well capitalized, zero debt company, and again they have some land parcels as well, so which they are trying to sell. there is something going on, it's still part of non-core part of your portfolio. Uh, like they're getting many independent directors, industry veterans, asset light model. Uh, Also, they got, as I mentioned, they recently won a big order for landing gears. They didn't disclose, so these guys don't disclose any order book, the product class, like uh, revenue split, product split, anything as such. And I think most of these things are self-explanatory. Again, I think uh, this is these are some of the factors where you're like Sika. The tailwinds are too big to ignore, given the low base the whole country is starting with, not just the industry. So some of the risks, again, very government-driven industry, very uh, what do you call, order book driven, but also order books, these can fluctuate. And when you listen to most of the OEM like subsystem player commentaries, they would say the order books and receivable days primarily fluctuate because of the end system integrator, because of the nature of delivery that they have to do. The only additional point I can add here is in the near term, I think j- even till the volatility fluctuation continue till 2023, I think we may expect in the near term as well. Now that the growth has been kicking in the last 2 years, but even if we assume some kind of volatility until the company reaches some certain critical mass in terms of size, where multiple projects, like if they go into multiple verticals and the corresponding timeline, offset timelines, uh, that can bring some evenness into the revenues. Both of the divisions actually have doubled in the revenues in the FY24. FY25 again, in the September division, there was no split. They only give the split in the annual report. So that's also another thing to note. And past family dispute, I don't think this is big of an issue, but still, I just mentioned it here. Uh, So, as I mentioned, a very small player, sophisticated industry, competition about to emerge, consolidation happening across big, larger players. If any abrupt policy changes or government changes happen, that also, and also we know the industry is very marred with red tape, corruption, especially defense procurement things, and many controversial government issues as well. So these are some of the things. So one thing I like is it's a cash rich business. So these guys are aiming for sustainable and profitable growth. If you are still a slow company but generating cash from the business, so you can always turn your fortunes by inorganic growth, right? But if you are in a growth phase but still non-cash generating, I think you have to continue through dilution or blow up the business somewhere down the line. So in that way, I think I don't know if this can be a like alpha generator in the bull market, but I believe this can be a good driver in terms of sustainable growth over a long 3 to 5 year cycle as such. And I think I'll cover the fundamentals. So actually, if you see the growth rate here, I think the Q2 growth rate. I think this was with exceptional income. I think the actual income was like 4.1 crore. So there has been nearly 55% growth or something in the bottom line as well. So the growth has the supply chain disruptions, everything I think have been past the company. I think the growth is sticking. You can see the numbers on the top line front. And the company guides for a sustainable operating margin of 18 to 20%. And also they guide for a growth of 15 to 20%. But if you look at again, the language that Kunal Sikka uses is quite diplomatic. And again, he doesn't clearly mention on the AGMs as well regarding uh, the growth. Actual, like he doesn't specify a growth number, but he says growth momentum will continue. These sort of words, diplomatic things. But also, I'll just give a small hack for you guys. So again, Sika doesn't disclose anything. Like you guys might be aware of another company called Avantel. Avantel actually discloses their AGM transcript to the exchange. But in terms of Sika, if you actually go to investor section, they upload the AGMs over there, AGM transcripts over there, but they don't upload to the exchanges. So that is how I was able to figure out the whole company. And again, these are some fundamentals. Again, yearly growth 23 to 24, it's starting to tick, or margins starting to normalize. sustainable profit, operating margins are near, I mean, they guided for 18 to 20. So I think it's a fair figure to assume here. And if there is any value accretive products, it might increase as well. Again, as I said, the it's more of a man-hour business rather than a machine hours. So asset light business. So you don't see much of a capex. So many people were questioning the plant and machinery component in the AGM, why it's not increasing. So they said the same. We want to focus more on the specific niches rather than doing the commoditized segments for manufacturing just to increase the top lines. And also, just to point out of this expenses, I think last year there was around 45 crore of imports. So I believe there is a large component where they are the tie-up with international partners. They are importing a lot of things still. Uh, so and export was like around 1.2 crore. So I think import component mostly is because of the offset clauses and uh, the technology types. And again, balance sheet. Wanted to just take a look and cash flows operate positive operating cash flow company. So they have enough cash in hand as well. So no working capital issues as such. Again, some of the risk and concerns. See, there are a lot of industry changes in here. There have been real-time tracking, data analytics tools, AI-based solutions, robotic sort of a things, which may like affect the company if the company doesn't upskill their employees. There is some term called predictive maintenance that's been happening in the MRO division recently. And valuations, I think very micro cap company. The company has grown from 80-90 crore to 1,000 crores now in 4 or 5 years now. So again, book value doesn't make sense because of asset light model. It's like 10 times book value. PE 46. It has actually crashed a lot. I think from 3,500 to 2,400, maybe 40% ish sort of a drop. Still, I think at this levels, I think it has some value. I believe so at least. So, but also it's not a recommendation. I think as a disclaimer. So why I like this company, because as the past speaker also said, there are some cycles where the nature takes its own pace. So I believe with all the tailwinds, with all the things that are happening in this segment in this industry, I believe this whole industry is poised to grow exponentially. So this has been my broader thesis, and also Sika. There are some of the places I found where these guys are actively participating, and also there is Aero India. If anyone wants to participate in February next month around the same time, so one can also. I think they might be also present. They usually come almost for every Aero India event. So coming to technicals, it is breathing at. I mean, it used to breathe at just slightly above 200 EMA in the last the last week. I think market was very weak. It has broken down under the 200 EMA. So currently, it looks a little weak. So uh, adding, I mean, buying in bulk is something I would avoid here, uh, given the technical strength. And on the weekly basis as well, there is some support at 2400, 2450-ish levels. So again, candles are tightening, weekly candles. So this is something to look out if there is any big volume. And also, I just wanted to point out there is a big shareholder. I think I don't recall her name, but she used to hold 1.5, 1.6% of business. Around the time the crash started, she also started to sell. So I think she might also be some contributor for this convergence. So uh, I think it has gone below 1% now. We won't be able to track it, but still, it's just a blind guess of it that she might be the contributor for all the selling, because it's a very low float company. The float is very less, 70% controlled by the 75% controlled by the promoter itself, and they haven't diluted like around I think from the beginning it has been the same way. 71% is what around the ballpark they hold, and the resources that I think I've shared, I just added here. You can go through when I share the whole presentation. And I think with all this, I think uh, presentation comes to an end. Uh, you, you are free to ask any of the questions.
Yeah, so it's a good presentation on a different industry. I think it's the sunrise industry which is coming up. So two questions. One from my side is on any peers in Indian space apart from Air India or bigger players, any other small players?
So in the LSN technologies, there are small startups that are budding in Bangalore and the nearby aero parks, but I wasn't able to find because it was all Toffler. It was asking all the subscription for all the
Yeah.
revenue details. So not major, but primarily I also see this is not so for Dornier's ALH Dhruv. This is more of a defense, what do you call MRO rather than of a civil aviation. Uh, I just mentioned because civil aviation also can be an optionality in the future, wherein the big growth is coming. These guys are talking with some OEMs once the policy stabilizes. So that is something. But and as such, I don't think there is no direct exact peer. Maybe you can compare a few EMS players, but usually see Puneet, the in this industry more or less. Uh, Globally, the OEMs itself offer what do you call the product knowledge, the consulting, and all the uh, minimal MRO, the system integration type of MRO. But here there is a big gap because of the way the industry has been. I mean, the industry has been nothing, right? Basically, we have been importing until the start of this century. So there is no industry as such. So I think there is. It's a sort of a niche. I don't think that any peer exists, any direct peer exists.
Mhm. Another question from Amar. So any family dispute which is ongoing is settled or not? And
I think it has been settled. There has been a small document I also added in the resources for Indian Kanun. This one somewhere. I have to study it. I still didn't go through, but I don't think it's a big issue now, from what I
Mhm.
have seen in the articles now.
Okay. Any other questions from the participants are welcome.
Puneet, Yogesh this side.
Yep.
Really
Yes,
very,
Ayush.
very good pick. Really appreciate this. My question is to the context on the Puneet's first question where you answered. Say tomorrow if scalability comes in this, how Sika Interplant is ready because there is shortage of uh,
Yes, manpower is short. Yes.
yes. So this is
Uh,
the concerning point that how will they
yes.
will be scale it up.
Yes, I think I also mentioned it in one of the slides. I think academia has to step up, the industry has to step up here. I don't think there is any alternative to like nurture the talent within the country. I mean, forget engines, at least the component space as well. Uh, that is something to look for. I think these guys are hiring the veterans. So let's see. And also, EPFO data is showing 61, 62 employees, but I think uh, when I see the LinkedIn pages and their HRs, I think they have been hiring some diplomas, BTech fresh grads and all. So I don't think they are taking them under the same payroll or something due to there is some period, right, for 90 days, something for 1 year. So the hiring has been aggressive actually. From last 11 months, they actually posted so many hirings.
See, my only, I like the overall concept, like the overall idea. The only concept is, it is highly, as you mentioned, advanced technology,
Yeah,
anything
sophisticated. Yes.
sophisticated design. So it would require, something very highly professional or educated person, something aeronautical into,
Yes, yes,
engineering
yes.
nature to come into the play and do these things. So if diploma and all this, then they have
No,
to
no, no,
pay
no,
the
no. I'm
commodities.
saying no, no, no.
Yeah.
Actually, if you actually see the AGM as well, he mentioned they have 52 employees. Out of it, 80% are engineers.
Okay. Okay.
So
Okay.
it's not that they don't have any expertise.
Yeah,
They
that's
have.
why. See, the volume is already less, and if tomorrow,
Yes.
4 or 5 retire, then it will be very crunch situation type of them. But overall, business is growing. If we got scalability, nothing like that. But yes, their
Yes.
manpower is, kind of not
Yeah.
ready here.
So again, I see two tailwinds. One is defense, with the increased number of fleet, especially the indigenous place. And again, on the civil aviation, when the policy changes occur and the foreign OEMs start to kick pace, tie up with the local guys. So these are the like I believe in industry tailwinds, industry cycles rather than like rather than the business cycles. So that is how I'm thinking the talent might come. Especially there is an analogy, right? In I think in 1910s or something, where New York used to have all the hotspot dwellers. When the cars came, everyone disappeared, and somewhere they got adjusted into the workflow. So there might be some talent nurturing that happens. So let's see. This is one sort of a risk. I agree with you. I don't deny it. But let's see how the things work.
Yeah, thank you, Vinit. But very, very nice idea. Very nice.
Thank you. Thank you. Any more questions coming in? So,
No,
okay, Puneet, I think with that,
sure.
I think the presentation comes to a close. So this is all about, this is what all I found about the Sika, a value-added engineering partner. So with that, I'll take a leave. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Sure. Wonderful. Yeah. Right. So yeah, Devang, are you there?
Yes, yes, Manoj.
Yeah. Please, you can start sharing. I am maybe the co-host.
Just a second.
Yes, we are able to see. You can start.
Okay. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So, this is my first ALD presentation. Uh, oh, I will try to cover the company with the knowledge or the understanding which I had. Any questions coming across, I will answer. If I'm not able to, I'll answer post the presentation. So let's start with the presentation. Majorly, with Puneet self, I follow uh, approach of top down, where I see that if the global market is where the global market is going, how the Indian market is performing, and if my company which I am picking, if that is going in the same direction. So for this time, I picked the consumer durable. We can see the bifurcation that consumer durables are majorly bifurcated into two pieces. One are major compliances, and others are SDA. Those are small domestic compliances. Major appliances where we see that major revenue comes, which I have seen, that is air conditioner, refrigerators, televisions, washing machine, etc. And in the small domestic appliance, we see the kitchen appliances majorly, and then comes for cookers and ovens, etc., etc. So I'm sorry. Before I proceed further, I would like to give a disclaimer that first, all the data which I am presenting is easily available in DHRP of the company, investor presentation of the company, and few are on the screeners. Second, yet I'm not having any position into this company which I'll be presenting. I'm still going for that. And third, it is just for the presentation purpose and education purpose. You may want to do your own research before investing. Going with another one, another slide. Now we see that how the global consumer market is going. So we see in 2022, the number shows, if it is visible on the screen, it was 555 billion market, and the way we foresee it will be of 726 billion market in 2027. That is something estimated. And if we look at the CAGR from 2022 to 2027, we will see that India is standing into double digit. Everything like rest of Epack, China, Europe, Middle East Asia, North America, Latin, all are going into single digit. However, India is and the one not say subcontinent, but the only country which is there into the list, despite of not being a continent or subcontinent, having double digit CAGR. Now, why? That is something contributing to double digit, which is the developing Indian economy, Now we are like uh, the most populated country. Sorry, most populated country, yes, of course. So we have the greater consumer spending power with increasing youth uh, capacity of earning. We have high quality items on the reasonable price because we are considering China plus one as a place where the manufacturing hub is coming, and that is where we are focusing upon. So we see high quality items, and with the size of market, as I mentioned, that we are eyeing up, the company is eyeing up for 30, not company, but the global market is eyeing up for 13.7 CHAR until 2028-27. Now, when we talk about, that's what about the global economy. Now let's talk about the Indian consumer economy, consumer durable market. Now we see again in FY23, the it was 1303 billion market, and we foresee from the Indian point of view that it will be of 2478 billion market by 2027. Figures will see that everything is expanding, apart from a few the small items which normally we do not use, be it television, refrigerator, air condition, or the STA washing machine. Everything will be there, which will be contributing to our daily consumption. And why we see that? Because first of all, we having the increasing household income, and we are increasing our spend. That is something first thing which we foresee. Second, a rising temperature. So when we say rising temperature, that is clearly pointing out to two dimension, that is air condition and the refrigerators. Then we have in India, we have introduction to ODM ODM model, that is original design manufacture. Companies are coming into the picture. They are putting up their efforts for the manufacturing part. And plus, we see that before we were having the joint household structure where people used to live in one bungalow or one villa or something like that. Now people are having the apartment system. So majorly we are having the nuclear family going on. These are the growth drivers which we foresee that the consumer market will, how it will boom into the India. Now, as I mentioned that it will be increasing. So how these things we mentioned, we're gonna what you can say, uh, I'm sorry, I'm not getting the words. Which will contribute into India. That is adoption of the small appliance, small smart home appliances, online sales, which we see like Amazon, Flipkart, Chrome, everybody having their own website. People are being lazy enough, to go on the website and uh, order it. Then post the order, we have the companies are improving on the after sales services and customer support. Health and awareness of appliances awareness is going on, and there are many options such as no cost EMI, EMI option, etc., and the financial part option. And how, as we mentioned that ODM is emerging, then how it will be benefiting we will be going towards the globalization into the market expansion. If we want to uh, stay there and we want to make a progress into the market as a ODM industry, we have to have cost effectiveness. We have to be good at into the time to we should having the time to market advantage with us. We should be having the supply chain if we are eyeing up for the good ODM. And if you see the size of consumer durable markets for the ODMC, in 2023 it was 300, and by the CAGR it is increasing of 21, and 2028 we see 775 as $1 million in India. Well, the company which I would like to present over here is Epack Durable. I believe that most of us are already are aware of the company, and you people might have read as well. So all the data which they have presented, I see that they have presented from the India point of view. So by the India point of view, they have 24 market share, highest amount of the backward integration in the RAC model, that is room air conditioner model, on the single location. They have a good hold on the diversified portfolio of RAC SDA components. they having cost effectiveness, which we just mentioned into that how we can, as a ODM company, if we want to proceed further and we want to make a revenue, how we can do it. So the techs which I see, they are already doing. They're having 3 manufacturing facilities. They have R&D center. One of the people who has the RAC model in India, and etc. So you already see the what they uh, are into the market as per their presentations. If we look at a journey, we see in it 2020, 2003, they were just OEM people with a few RSC brands. But I'll skip to 2021. We see that they have Bhiwandi manufacturing facility, so they have increased the expansion. Then see they have CFF manufacturing, and now they have the Sri City manufacturing facility. So with this, they have improved, so not improved, but they have increased their expansion so that they make more components, and they have a better visibility in the market, and they can deliver more to the brand. Now we will talk about the the management. I think that they have they have handpicked the people who are good in the business. So I personally found that Bajrang Bothra, Ajay Singhania, and Sanjay Singhania, they're having pretty much good experience in the manufacturing sector, which they are as a director. And other one are Kailash Jain and Samir Bhargava and Shashank, which again they are having good experience in administration. Samir is having the experience in the heating part or an air conditioner part, etc., etc. And Shashank having good experience in marketing sector. So that is what I feel that have a good management. The product they're catering as of now is air condition, which is outdoor, indoor, window or domestic air cooler. The small compliances which they have is the induction cooktop, mixer grinder, water dispenser, and the components are not going into because that I didn't give them much of my attention. Upcoming products which they have on to the list, those are washing machine, which they are already into. I believe they have mentioned in one of their con call that by November, December, they will be into the product. The washing machine will be into the production phase. A room oil heater, I don't have any much of visibility, but yes, one thing I could sense from their con call is one, the refrigerator they also will be going in for the as an upcoming product theme. These are the customers which they're having like onto the plate. And when I say customer, I see that uh, they have a long standing relationship. They are like that they are catering for long for to them as a service. Now, to look talking about the business strength, as I mentioned that they're having long-standing relationship, which gives them a edge that they can expand their business. Then they are key manufacturer, as I mentioned into their presentation, that yes, they are one of the people who have a good market share, and they're having the room air conditioner and the small domestic appliance manufacturing industry set up, and plus they have manufacturing plant for that. They were one of the people who they are one of the companies who having the vertically integrated manufacturing operations along with them. Then they are working towards it so that they can be cost effective. They have a robust portfolio development. They keep on increasing their product portfolio, so to be in the market and so that their revenue is not cyclical. And as of course, which I like, the promoters are quite senior and they are quite aggressive. Now, a few growth drivers. So first one is which I understood that BS certification is required if you want to make uh, business in India. You have to have the BS certification mandatory, and that came as a barrier for the people who were exporting things from the China, Thailand, etc. Uh, Same goes for the ban on like, import gas units. So again, it made as a barrier for companies who were exporting from China and other MNC companies. Government having PLI scheme, they are getting benefited among that. And the last one, that is phased manufacturing program. That is something which I understood that they're having uh, manufacturing units, and they can be cost effective, and that is why they can be there into the market, and they can sustain easily. From the company point of view, that what could be the entry barriers? Uh, you have to have the like major bank balance, or the people who must be willing to you know invest in you, where you have the long gestation period from developing a design to finding a customer and delivering to them. Then you have to have the long expertise and technical expertise. Even though you have the money, you cannot go just to market and make a company out of it. Again, you have to find the customer, etc. So these things which I find as a the entry barriers uh, in market. Now, looking at the profit and loss statement, which I've taken from the screener, I found that from 2021 till TTM, they have been now in the path where the things are increasing for them. There was a dip in 2024 due to some circumstances where the climate change happened. It got the inventory got stuck up, and sales didn't go as per plan. So that is why there was a dip. And but now again, I see that a team company is again onto the mark where they are progressing. Talking about the net profit, I see them increasing irrespective of the sales or the revenue they made. So from 8, they have gone to 48. If I talk about the TTM, or if I talk about the 2024, they have gone like 4 times. Shareholding pattern, which I foresee, which I see as promoters having good skin into the game. And another thing which I liked is the number of shareholders. Though they have public shareholding has increased, but the number of shareholder got decreased. So I believe the good number of people are accumulating things from the company point of view. On the credit rating, it has again upgraded their rating from with a short term or long term. For the long term and short term, we can see it was A minus, that is stable. Now they have upgraded to A2 plus, that is for the long term things. And for the short term and long term, whatever we can call it, they are stable on that piece. Uh, I'm not sure if it is completely visible onto the screen, because these are snaps which I've taken from the conf call, but I will just pinpoint few things. So in the Feb 2024, they have highlighted that they will be uh, uh, they will be going in the manufacturing things, and adding new products in the categories. And they also targeted. They also mentioned that as I'm in my first slide, it was mentioned that the industry will be booming with the 20% CAGR. And they are also saying that yes, we are making our strategies, and we will outgrow the industry. In the June con call, they mentioned that the complete global average is 42%. In India, we are standing at 8%. So as I mentioned, the company is also aggressive. They are looking forward to penetrate the global market. And I believe one of the client which they just onboarded, Hussein, if I'm not wrong with the name, they are having the 1 billion deal for next upcoming 5 months, which they will be giving to them. So as of now, they have uh, MOU, not MOU, but agreement for the AC. I mean, upcoming phases they will be having for TV as well as the refrigerator. So that is why I believe that they have given that they are ready to further penetrate the global market. And one thing I would like to mention, that in June they mentioned that they have 85% of sale were coming from the top 5 people, and now they have diversified to the customer base, so that top 10 customers are giving that revenue. So the concentration which was coming from the particular 3 clients, it has gone down. Not gone down, but they have been diversified. Another thing which you mentioned, that they will be their revenue is concentrating on 86% of the revenue, and they would like to make it less than 70. And in in November con call, I could see that yes, the revenue from air conditioner, which they promised that from 85 they will bring down to 70%. They did it without having any impact on the overall revenue. And yes, as I mentioned, that they're having a washing machine facility. They have they have a washing machine into the product portfolio, and plus a refrigerator into the portfolio. So you can see that they already working towards it, and by November, which already gone, the December first week, they started to plan it, and their capacity was 25,000 washing machine per month, which they were eyeing up to. They already made uh, sorry, they shook hand with Panasonic as well as Hisen manufacturer for the air conditioned home appliances locality in India, which I already mentioned. So this is something which I could pick from the con calls. Uh, Talking about the technicals, uh, though I'm still waiting for the point where I could make my position. So I believe that the market has given this company quite a good raise in terms of price, because it was a news that Hussein company is having some sort of they are acquiring some sort of acquisition and into the Epack. However, the company clarified that it is into the very beginning stage, so they cannot comment on that. So probably that was the news which gave quite boost onto the price. But for last two session, I could see the continuous uh, the lower circuit has happened, and given to the scenario, if it comes to the 500, 520 or 550, I would be making a position. Again, I'm just giving my perspective that how I'll be going to. So that is all from my end. I'm sorry if I boot up anywhere. Any questions I would like to answer.
Nice presentation, Devang. First time, so uh, good start, I would say.
Thanks, Mohinji.
Yeah. So how do you see this consumer durable space, peers basically? So there are a lot of companies doing the similar thing, right? Yes, Epack is one of them. And do you see it has a potential to overcome other peers, or it will become a commodity? How do you see this?
Puniji, the way I see this company, they have quite hunger to outperform. And for the last 3 to 4 con calls which I went through, I saw the hunger into them. So there are people who are quite stable into the people, and as in the organizations or the companies which are quite stable into the market, they want to be there. So yes, I feel that they will be in a position where they will have a good market presence. And why I can say that, because majorly they were into the air condition business, which we know that is cyclical. Sales will happen into the summer month, and then for winter and the barsat ke mausam mein, it will not happen. So their hunger made them to work for the other sorry, adding other product into the portfolio. Like what they're having washing machine, they will be going to the refrigerator. They're having the air cooler, or the small compliances, which not compliance, sorry, small appliances which they will be working upon. So that revenue is not hampered. And plus, again, I found them quite aggressive. Reason being, they went ahead rather than having they already having small presence into the Indian market, but they just want to expand their revenue. They shook hand with Hisen. I believe Hisen is one of the leading company in China, and if they want to have a presence in India, and the barrier is coming across from India perspective, that they cannot have simply export over here and make a sale. They shook hand with these people. So that is how I have built up my connection into this company. So yes, they will be
Okay,
good into the consumer durables market.
sure. Sure. Yeah, audience, any questions if you have, you can go ahead. Okay, so there is no other question right now, but there is a one message regarding the overvaluation that we already understand. So yeah, it is little bit overvalued at this point of time. So we need to get it cooled off, and then if you're looking for entry, that would be better. So thanks, Devang, once again.
Thank you, Paji. Thank you
Yep.
for the guidance.
Yep.
And thank you,
So,
everyone, for being with me. Thanks.
so we'll move to Amar.
I'm audible, Puneet, right?
Yes.
I've started sharing my screen. Let me know when it's visible.
Yeah, it is now visible to me. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So today I'll be talking about pharma company. And when I was doing my research, I got this company got into my radar because of like certain key points. I'll mention more about this as and when I proceed during my presentation. But the pharma company which I'm talking about is Natco Pharma, and it is more into it's a major generics player. And it has a very good inroads into the US generics market. So when we talk about generics, it can be a commodity generics and it can be a very high niche and highly paid generics, where it is very complex generics and very customized kind of thing. So before I jump into Natco Pharma, I just wanted to talk about bit of the pharma basics inside the bit of the pharma basics, where it kind of tries to differentiate between what an innovator is, what an generics is. I thought this would be useful because when I was doing my research, I kind of came up certain terms where I had to kind of like go one or two level down just to understand what they're talking about. So I thought I'll just cover it here and then we will move on to the main thesis. So like I mentioned before, within pharma, very broadly, there will be innovators. Innovators are the pharma companies who actually do research for a particular sickness and how to kind of like cure it. So their research is more focused on how do we treat this ailment or sickness. And when I say how do we treat, means they come up with new molecules, new medicines. So that is where the innovator comes into play. Generics are the manufacturer. They are into pharmas and they are also very high research oriented. But then instead of going the long route, winded route of innovator, what they do is they take some of the medicines which are already into the market, and then they kind of see how they can reverse engineer that medicine so that they can get some share of the pie. When I say that, कभी कभी ऐसा लगता है कि एक innovator तो like okay, he deserves all the money, he deserves all the praise. How come we are getting this shortcut to the generics? But in the whole ecosystem, generics has an important part to play. I will talk about it within this slide itself. So now we have talked about innovator, we have talked about generics. On the left hand side, if you look at it, this is what we are talking about, the whole journey for the innovator. Sometimes what happens by the time a innovator focuses onto a problem, they research and bring solution for that problem in terms of a new medicine, new molecule, and how to cure it. That whole process can be anywhere from like 10 to 12 years. But then the thing is, when they think that at the outset, at the initial stages of the drug discovery, if they think like certain drugs are going to work for this sickness, they need to file a patent so that to protect their rights. So this patent filing happens right at the early stage where the drug actually being introduced into the market is decades of, 1 decade of, or like 8 to 10 years of. But then they have to file the patent. How does the government or the ruling authority protect innovators' right? Because if they are doing all the donkey work, they are pouring in all the money into the research and all, how do they ensure that they get fair share of the pie? So from the moment that patent is filed, that patent is valid for 20 years. There is a 20-year blanket exclusivity which is given to the innovator. Unfortunately, of that 20 years, 10 to 12 years, or at times even 15 years will go by the time we do all the steps and bring the drug into the market, correct? So this is what we are talking about here. On the first slide, we have this drug discovery. And then there is a different ways and mechanisms which they have to kind of pass through each phase and pass each phase with the particular test and all. Then the FDA comes into the play, and finally the drug will get into the market. On the top, if you see, this is the clinical trials which we talk about. So I have started here with phase 1, but there is even a phase 0. Phase 0, what happens? The molecules and the excipients which the innovator thinks is the one which is going to work. In phase 0, they pick handful of people, say 10 to 12 people. And the intensity of that drug will be a fraction of what is actually going to be. For example, it will be like a low single digit, 2% or 5% or something like that. So that if they are trying it on human, it is not fatal. But at the same time, it gives them enough data point to see whether this drug is, are we on the right path or not? Will it really cure the sickness or not? Those kind of things. So there is a phase 0, which starts with the 10 to 12 people. Then we move on to phase 1, where the sample size, it becomes a bit more. Instead of 10 to 12, now it becomes 100 to 150. There are again, in each phases, there will be like checks and balances so that there is no kind of a human fatality in the whole process kind of thing. So we have phase 1, we have phase 2, phase 3, and this kind of like takes years and years. So phase 3 is the final one where they kind of like say, okay, this is where we were and this is our success rate. And at each stage, what happens? The efficiency of the drug, it kind of like gets more ascertained and it becomes more and more clear that, okay, this is something which might work, something which might not work, or which is having a harmful implications. When I say harmful implications, in terms of whether it is having any other side effect or ill effect on the human physiology. Those things are kind of like taken care of and weeded out. And once all this thing is being done, then we move on to the data points are all submitted to the FDA. FDA kind of reviews it, does its own due diligence, and finally when it gives it go ahead, that is the time when we get into phase 4. And we talk about like the post-marketing, where actually the drug is being released into the market and the whole marketing campaign kind of like is built around it, and then the new drug is introduced to the market. This is the, on the left side of the screen, left of the screen is the journey which innovator has to take. And like I said, they get a patent exclusivity of that particular drug for 20 years. But in reality, in actual, it might be like about like 5 to 6 years where they get exclusive rights, and the rest of the time, like it is more of like kind of completing each and every milestone so that they get the drug onto the market. Now I'll move onto the second half. Second half में I'm talking about the generics. Now we covered the innovator part. Innovator को 20 साल का exclusivity मिल गया, but in reality it might be like 5 to 7 years only. Generics basically what do? They are also kind of research-oriented pharma company only. There are like pharma companies which will go for each and every drug and they become a part of the commodity generics market. अब इनोवेटर जब पहले लाता है उसको एक्सक्लूसिविटी है तो then what it does, it has a freedom of pricing it, and usually that is at a higher price because they have to recoup their investment. So part of the innovator bucket when the drugs come out, one drawback, well, I wouldn't say drawback, but then that's a fact of life. The drug will be very pricey. When I say pricey, then it is not into the reach of each and every person. That is where the generics manufacturer come into play, and they play a huge role. Once they have got the approval, they have gone through the due diligence and all, and they get approval for introducing their generics into the market. Because of the fact that they have not spent that 10, 12 years on to looking at a drug from scratch, they are not part of the drug discovery itself. What they are trying to do is they are looking at a drug which is already into the market. They are doing the reverse engineering, and they are trying to come up with a drug which is like equivalent to the actual innovator drug. Some of the main excipients, when we talk about it, ingredients we talk about, it has to match, but then it doesn't have to match the same size or color, or even for that, they might have some extra ingredients into it. That's okay. So that is where we come into it. And there is a term here we call bioequivalence. Bioequivalence is just steps taken to prove that the generics drugs which is being proposed it is exactly works like the innovator drug, the original drug, and that it doesn't have any harmful effect onto the human physiology. It is not having any fatal effects and all. So that is all they have to prove. So this is where the generics kind of come into play. At the bottom, I have kind of given a comparison, but then the biggest differentiating factor is when we come up with a generic drug, it is going to be very much less expensive. And on top of that, once the exclusivity period is done, there will be too much competition coming into the play, and there will be too many generics manufacturing come into play, and the scale of production comes into play there, and because of the cost further comes down. What is the end result? It becomes much more feasible for the customer to pay for that medicine. One of the slides I will talk about down the line also, but just to give an example so that you understand where I am coming from. Everybody's kind of heard about semaglutide and the GLP-1 drugs and all the wonder drug for obesity. It started off as a diabetes medicine, but then one of the offshoot of it was like people found that it also cures obesity. I wouldn't say cures because obesity is not actually a disease, but then it kind of inhibits it kind of brings down the weight. It's a weight management drug kind of thing, right? So within GLP-1, we have Ozempic, which is for diabetes management, and then we have Wegovy, which is for the weight management. This weight management drug, even though it is very effective, but because of the way it has to be delivered to a patient and all, the current price, because it is in an exclusive period right now with the innovator, is 1,000 rupees, 1,000 USD dollars per month. Now, when the generics come into play, $1,000 per month is almost like 85K, right? And if you talk about a year dose, then it quickly multiplies and becomes out of reach of most of the public. But when the generic player comes into play, they get the approval, they do the due diligence and they do research, bring out a new generics into the market. What happens? The cost comes crashing down. The 1,000 USD can easily drop down to 100 USD or 200 USD per month, which becomes much more feasible. That is where generics play an important role. So till now, you guys with me, right? So I will focus on this top right corner. It is the ANDA. It is an abbreviated new drug application. Now, ANDA in short, they call it. This has to be filed by both innovator as well as the generics player. Innovator, when it's discovering the new drugs, it will file this and it kind of goes through the whole phase. Generics, since they are not doing it from scratch, they do the research and there are 4 ways they can do it. Paragraph 1, 2, 3, and 4. I have kind of listed. I will share the presentation. For lack of time, I'm not going to go each and every detail of it. What we are going to focus and important for this presentation is the paragraph 4. Paragraph 4, what it dictates is some of a challenger, generic player is going to come and challenge the innovator saying, you might have got the patent, you filed for a patent, you got a patent, but my say here is that patent was wrongly delivered to you. It shouldn't have been given because it's a part of a process which has been already into the industry or something that sort of. So it is not a very exclusive thing or something not which only you guys have discovered. So paragraph 4 is that kind of challenge where somebody challenging the patent itself. Remember, innovator, when it files a patent, they get a 20-year exclusivity. But when paragraph 4 comes in and somebody challenges and successfully proves it, the generics player who has filed this and kind of like won the case and they have won the paragraph 4, the FDA also gives them exclusivity for the first 6 months after they win the case. Again, there is an exclusivity, not for the innovator, but for the generics player. That is called first to file, FTF in short, they call it. First to file mein kya hota hai ki the same kind of privilege is given to the generics player, saying ki, okay, you have won the case, now you have proved efficiently ki there is a way around this patent. So because of that, we provide you 6 months exclusivity. So what happens? The generics player, it has not taken the whole journey as an innovator and hence he has not invested that much amount into the research, but at least some part has gone. And to recoup that, they get that 6-month exclusivity. And when we get this 6-month exclusivity, what happens? That GLP-1 weight management drug example, which I give, innovator was charging 1,000 USD per month. One who has done FTF, first to file, and got 6 months exclusivity, they can bring the price down to say 500 or 400 till the time the 6 months exclusivity goes off. After 6 months, since other generic players are going to jump into the fray, this price of 400, new discount price of 400 or 300 will further tumble down to 100 or 150. This is how the whole industries, pharma industries, kind of built around on a very broad basis. And the company which we are focusing, which is Natco Pharma, it is not your tip. I will move on to the next slide. Questions will take at the end, and you keep on putting it on the chat so that my presentation flow is not broken. I'll take it at the end. I'll move on to the next slide. Just a cross check, Puneet. We are seeing the next slide, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe.
Okay. Okay. So Natco Pharma is not your typical run-of-the-mill pharma company. When I say what do I mean by that? एक pharma company का क्या होता है? If I take any other pharma, say like Sun Pharma or Lupin for that matter, or Dr. Reddy's, what they do is they work on both the innovator side as well as the generic side. Innovator side, में, for example, recent example, there is a run-up in Wockhardt because they have come up with a new molecule and it has got a FDA approval now. So basically, they are traversing the innovator path there, where they have from scratch, they have developed a new molecule and they are coming up with a new cure, and hence they will get all the privileges that is with the innovator. Most of our Indian firms, they will be kind of like a major part of their business will also be part of generics. But then generics, what happens, every medicine, if you want to go for the generics version of it, yes, the cost will be less, but then because the exclusivity has run out, there will be intense competition, and because of that, the prices will be at the rock bottom kind of thing. When I say rock bottom, कि मेरा कॉस्ट अगर 10 रुपीज है तो मैं 11 या 12 में ही बेच पाऊंगा. What I want to say is the margins are going to be very less. So generics by itself is a very commodity business. But Natco Pharma का focus अलग है. Natco Pharma, like I said, it's not your run-of-the-mill pharma company. What it does, it kind of like zeroes onto like very high paying and very complex and niche medicines onto the market. It kind of like does it on research, reverse engineers it and comes up with their cure. And then most of the time, it goes for the para 4 filing. Para 4 filing is not an easy task where you challenge the innovator itself saying कि नहीं ये patent तो उनको मिलना ही नहीं था. There is nothing disruptive about what you have brought it to. So that kind of process, this is how where the whole business plan of Natco Pharma is built around. So it focuses on complex, very niche medicines which are very high value. They reverse engineer it and kind of come up with their own equivalent generic of it. And then they kind of like challenge on the para 4 way, because of if they are successful, they get the FTF, first to file rights. And because of that, they will get exclusivity of 6 months. And after 6 months also, there will still be revenue in line because they have already got 6 months heads up compared to the other generics player. And in that 6 months, they have captured some part of the market, and trail effect of that will be there, which will continue for like at least for 2-3 years more, which kind of like fills up the revenue pipeline. This is the gist of what Natco Pharma does. It has been in existence for more than 4 decades now. And in 4 decades, this is their business model. This is where they are pursuing it. And if once I kind of like move ahead forward, I'll show you that they have done this to a perfection and they have done it this to a very nicety. And the market has recognized it. And when like towards the end, when I enter into the technical section, I will show you like how the market has awarded Natco Pharma because of this. Like I said, sir, this presentation is going to be shared with all participants, so I'll not go into each and every detail. I'm going to more focus on my thesis, what I think are the salient points, because there is a lot to cover and some part of it I might just skip. But then once I just even glance at the financial parameters on the screen here, things are looking very good, right? ROC is 30+%, which is amazing. ROE is 25.9. Promoter holding is almost 50%. Nothing is pledged. Debt is only 208 crores for a 22,000 market cap company. This is negligible. Debt typically comes to 0.03. On top of that, Natco Pharma has around 2,000 crores of cash on their books. How does it help them? Because of their business model. Their business model, yeah, one thing I would like to mention over here, because of the way Natco Pharma has structured its business, what happens is there will be days when it will be Diwali and there will be days when they are just fighting to keep themselves afloat, right? Why? They have to fight the battle each time when there is a new medicine which they want to introduce into the market. They have to go through certain steps and all, which takes in money. So basically क्या हो रहा है, ऑपरेटिंग लेवरेज बिल्ट इन हो रहा है, बट देन इट इज ऑल डिपेंडेंट ऑन कि एक नया ड्रग उन्होंने डिस्कवर किया जेनरिक्स एंड दे आर एबल टू सक्सेसफुली ब्रिंग इट टू द मार्केट. If they are able to bring it to the market and especially with the FTF 6-month exclusivity, they will get revenues which will be exponential. Correct? So that is the Diwali period which I was mentioning about. But there will be times when in this whole process, they might fail. They might fail for so many reasons, right? Because innovator who has already spent billions into the drug discovery is not going to take things lightly, especially in market like USA, where it is a very litigation-based society, right? छोटे-छोटा बात पे तो उधर sue counter sue हो जाता है. So when somebody is going to come and challenge an innovator, they are going to drag you through the courts and all. So that becomes always a risk, because before even you reach the FDA and all, you have to first win that litigation, saying you have the right to proceed ahead. Once you do that, you have to still go file the ANDA. You will have to kind of go through phases and kind of clear those. Then the FDA has to approve it. Only then you win the jackpot. So in short, what I'm trying to explain here is Natco Pharma is a company who is going to Hail Mary pass karta ho. So it is going to bet on a drug and it is going to put all its effort behind it. Outcome is binary. Either it is going to be 1 or it is going to be 0. If it is 0, it's a very big loss, because all the investment they have done, that will go kaput. Because agar mera drug hi generics drug hi main market pe nahi la pa raha hu, to what returns will I get? But if and when they do that, we'll talk about it, what is that track record. But once they are able to manage that, it's a Hail Mary shot. So they will get a returns which is kind of exponential for that certain period. When I say certain period, it can be anywhere from 2 to 3 years. At least one drug will fill the coffers for them. But this is not a linear model, right? And since this is not a linear model, non-linear model kind of time, there will be troughs and troughs. So कई जगह पे it will hit a jackpot, it will hit the moon. Other time it will just kind of like sink it back and kind of like lick it woods and go for the next drug. So mera linear, my earnings are not going to be, they are going to be non-linear for a fact. And for that, investor has to first know the DNA of the company which they are investing. Natco Pharma ka DNA kya hai? Then they have to look at the management and then they have to take a call ki whether I want to live with this uncertainty, volatility. And if I do, if I win, then I win big, right? But there will be periods of lull where it will try your patience. So having said that, I'm just going on to move on to the next slide. Some of the parameters, like I said, one thing which I wanted to highlight here, because of the coming fall from September, because of the macro conditions and all, if you look at the Q3 results of Natco Pharma, they were phenomenal. Nothing wrong with the results. Sales growth, profit growth, everything is like upwards of 25%. But I'm still stuck with a PE of 11.4. One reason might be that the market is already fearing कि अभी blockbuster drug है जो अभी थोड़ा waning पे चल रहा है. When I say waning, they have already kind of traveled half of the journey. Half money तो आ गया है और 1-2 साल इधर से पैसा आएगा. But what is the next blockbuster drug in the pipeline? At this point of time, market doesn't have that visibility, and because of that uncertainty and fear, this is at a PE of 11.4. I remember when we were kind of like, this is just an aside, when we were talking, when Puneet said, okay, we are going to come up with ALD4, one of the comment one of our fellow participant made is, everything is so highly valued, ALD4 रखेंगे तो हम क्या present करेंगे, because value नहीं दिख रहा है. But then you search enough, you will find in pockets, you will find certain companies which you will find value there. The only thing is we need to figure out what is our thesis, whether what is the probability of that thesis coming out right. If the thesis comes out right, we win big. If not, we move on to the next opportunity. That is how it is. And this is kind of like being also shown in the kind of companies which have been presented in ALD4 till now, right? Nothing, koi bhi, except 1 or 2, there are not many companies which are very overvalued. Most of the companies which we are talking about, they have taken a hit from September till now. In the last 3-4 months, their prices have come down quite a lot, and we are seeing value based on their business model and their future earning growths. Natco Pharma kind of fits onto that. So I'll move on to the next slide. I'll spend only 1 second over here. Like I said, we'll share the presentation. You can go through this, but then it kind of gives a very brief picture of last 40 years में Natco Pharma ने journey क्या किया है, कैसे किया है, what are some of the blockbuster drugs it have kind of been successful in bringing into the market. But those drugs, I will cover it in the next slide. But otherwise, this slide, I will let you guys go through in leisure when Prunji shares the presentation with you guys. Here, I would like to spare some time. There are 2-3 slides where I really want to spend some time and we will kind of go into it. So what differentiates Natco Pharma from other, when I say that Natco Pharma is not your run-of-the-mill pharma company. So what is the differentiation? Some part I have already explained to you, that it goes after like complex and highly expensive drugs which are recently introduced into the market. It reverse engineers and kind of tries to bring in generics so that it reaps the benefit. So that is first part itself is big. Second thing, when I look at it, is everything is an integrated operation right now. When I say integrated operation, what does it mean? Within Natco Pharma itself, we have in-house R&D. We have a manufacturing division where they will have formulations, APIs, and we have a distribution arm too. So distribution arm till this time, it was more in India. In US, like I said, having a distribution arm also is going to be a bit risky. Why? Part of the risk coverage. So what happens? Like I said, USA, it is a very litigation heavy country, right? So Natco Pharma very early in the game decided कि अगर मैं USA, because that is where the money is and that is where the new medicines are being introduced into. If I'm going to introduce my generics there, to mitigate the risk, what it does, it picks up a local player. When I say local player, not a kind of SME kind of thing, and there will be big pharma companies within US. For example, Teva Pharmaceutical or Mylan or something like that. तो उनके साथ पार्टनरशिप कर लेता है एंड बेसिकली ही सेज कि नेटको फार्मा का जॉब है, they will do the R&D, they will come up with the generics, they will ensure that the generics is produced on a scale and given to the distribution company. This company, they go into arrangement in USA. It's responsibility to ensure that any kind of litigation comes up, they take care of it. Any kind of court cases and other things happen, they take care of it. They take care of the FDA approvals and all, and also they take care of the distribution. Because of that, there will be 100% जो market का pie है generics का, Natco will not get. But then this is how they wanted to grow and kind of get into the market and make a name for themselves, and that is how they are going into it. So that is where the distribution is coming. They are always give it to the partner, and along with the distribution, there are certain other aspects. So any kind of litigation or something happens, Natco doesn't come into the front. The partnering company, US company, will take the load there. So that is one aspect of it. Focus on complex generics, I have already mentioned. And because of that, what has happened is they, over a period of this 40 years, they have kind of like made themselves specialists into certain sections. So if I say niche treatment areas, they are very big onto the oncology, which is nothing but cancer treatment. So cancer treatment, they have introduced many generic drugs over there, and many of them have been a hit. CNS is central nervous system related drugs. That is again their specialty. Cardiology is there. And then we can kind of like go down the line. So that is what it is. And niche treatment areas, when we talk about it, I also told that they are into manufacturing also. So APIs they manufacture. Now they are from a diversification perspective. They are also getting into crop health science, where they are coming up with a very innovative pest control drugs. When I say pest control drugs, not always it to be a formulation. Sometimes they come up with a herbicide, which is kind of very environment friendly. It doesn't affect other plants, very targeted kind of thing. But this is something which they are newly getting into. Right now, it is not contributing much to their bottom line or top line. But having said that, 2-3 years down the line, they are expecting 300 to 500 crores revenue from crop health also. So this is one aspect of it. So the fact that they are big into oncology, CNS, cardiology, that is where their focus is. They are looking at the high growth areas only. Every run of the mill medicine, they simply kind of, if it is a commodity, they are not going to go into it because that is not what their business model is. Geographical area, in India, they are big, obviously Indian company, and then they are big in USA currently. Having said that, they already have like 7 subsidiaries in 7 different countries, including Canada, Brazil, Australia, Singapore, and others. So these are all 7 subsidiary companies of Natco in that particular geography itself. So geographically, they are diversified. But having said that, the revenue contribution mostly comes from India and USA currently, and then some parts of like Europe and Australia. Now it is their focus area. They are kind of like putting a conscious effort to grow the geographical areas. Why? Because they have already invested into the generics. They have already successfully brought certain drugs which has gone approved by the FDA. They are earning money from USA market, right? So if they go to another market, say Middle East or Brazil or say Canada or Africa, for them it's a lift and shift. They don't have to reinvent the whole pie. They already have the drugs onto the market. It's just a question of having a type of with some local pharma company within new geography, and then replicating the whole distribution chain, and the revenue starts flowing in. For the past 2-3 quarters, this has been in their conscious focus, and they are kind of trying to grow up their they are having that focus to grow up in new geographies too. On the right at the below, you see that robust R&D investment. It is double digit of their sales, double digit percentage. Like I said, the way their business model is, research is going to be their key factor, right? They cannot scrimp on that. But then what happens? At times it becomes a catch-22. अगर मैं एक कंपनी हूँ और मेरे पास में कैश ही नहीं है तो मैं रिसर्च कहाँ से करूँगा? But once I do the research, I get a blockbuster generic drugs into the market after approval and all. It kind of like feeds into the virtuous cycle, and it will get more money for R&D. So in the past, they have come up with like 6-7 drugs where they earned big, and that has kind of like flowing into the R&D. And R&D is currently double-digit % of their sales, which is a big number. And this focus is there, and it will only grow from here, because as and when they come up with new areas, the research will be intensive and it will need money, and that will be funneled and fueled by like what are the revenues they are getting from the new drugs and all. There is focus on complex generics. I have kind of mentioned like, but this kind of goes hand in hand with this niche treatment area. These are certain drugs which are already being either it is in their pipeline or they have already launched it. There is a separate slide where I'll talk more in detail about this. So I will more major points what I wanted to cover, I have covered. This proactive regulatory approach, I kind of explained when I said they partner with a US local company so that it fronts all the regulatory hurdles. The part of the role of the US player whom they tie up with is to give them all the regulatory approvals. If there are any cases or any litigation, they are the one who front and go to the court and sort it out. Because of that, a major pie, some pie of the cake will be shared with them, but that is how the business model for Natco is. I'll move on to the next slide now. So at this point of time, why Natco and what are the growth triggers we are talking about? I have kind of like briefly tried to, on the left-hand side, these are blockbuster drugs or something which are already there, and certain drugs which are in the pipeline. This is where I'm talking about. And apart from that, since this business model, they have been in this industry for 40+ years, there is a certain template which they follow, and the generics wala template unka abhi already set ho chuka hai. Obviously, for every new drug, they will have to do the research from scratch and kind of like do all the due diligence to get their generics drug onto the market. But like I said, it's a non-linear model, right? There will be a period where there will be a lull in earnings, and there will be a period where there will be like it will shoot up. So that we don't have that kind of inconsistency, they are kind of taking some proactive measures. So what are the proactive measures which will come into play? They can do diversification. Now, what do I mean by diversification? And like I said, they also have 2000 crores cash in their book. So if there is a cash, what happens? It will suppress your ratios, right? But then we looked at the financial ratios, they are still good. Why? Because the earnings is phenomenally high. That is kind of floating up the ratios like ROEs, ROC, in spite of 2000 crores of cash. So how do they use that cash? They will do acquisition. Inorganic growth will come into play. So one of the acquisitions which they have done recently is in a Canadian company called eGenesis. eGenesis is a biotech company. How does it fit into the Natco Pharma, the whole play? They want to diversify into biologics and bioformulations, and that is why this acquisition will help. Almost they paid, I think, 70 crores or for this eGenesis company. The highlight of this eGenesis company, it is kind of working on organ transplant. So they are kind of like farming pigs and all, and under tight lack of better word, like for that scientific, with all due diligence and checks and balances in play, they are kind of working on whether we can have the pigs over there and some of the organs whether they can be harvested and they can be transplanted onto the human beings. So that is the key focus area of that. And with this acquisition, they get a foot into the biologics market. And if down the line, the acquisition has been last, when was it? September 2024. So hardly like 4 months or so. So once they get into integrating this company into their DNA and they kind of like try to follow up, if they hit the right notes here and if it works out, this will be a big game changer for them. First, because they get into their foot into the biologics and biosimilar. Second thing, organ transplant, it is going to be a huge market if everything goes okay. So that is how they are kind of diversifying. This second acquisition, the Dash Pharmaceutical, they did that. But right now, see, management has done that acquisition based on certain thought process of there, right? But like I had said before, for the 40 years in existence, what they do in USA, they want to play safe. They just partner with a local company and all the regulatory actions and the distributions will be done by that partner company. And they will share some revenue pie with them. But then with acquisition of Dash Pharmaceutical, what happens? Dash Pharmaceutical is nothing but it's a front-end pharma sales and marketing company. तो अब जो जेनरिक जो आएगा वो सेल भी यही करेंगे, मार्केटिंग भी वही करेंगे. On the plus side, what happens? That part of the share which was going to the local partner, it remains with Natco and it contributes directly to their bottom line and top line. One adversity of that, which I think is there were certain things which Natco didn't have to get into, which was away from their business. For example, looking at the litigation, going after the regulators to get approval and all. Part of their business, but अगर वो मैं outsource कर सकता हूँ तो मैंने US local company को outsource कर दिया, which makes sense, right? Because they are more expert, they have a better handle there. But with this acquisition, now they are trying to get the distribution side on their side too. Now what happens because of that, there might be a friction with some of their partners in US whom they had partnered in the past, because now part of their business is being kind of taken back. One way of looking at this is Natco Pharma, after spending 40 years, they are now kind of fairly confident कि this is we can handle. US में भी अगर कुछ मुझे regulatory के लिए करना है, तो I can do it. And I can still do this distribution and sales and marketing part, and I will still retain that pie of the revenue. So that is one positive way of looking at it. I only look at the positive things. So that is how I think. So I think that is still a good acquisition and a good move on the Natco Pharma part. Apart from that, they kind of like are on the lookout. So they look out at smaller companies. Unka kuch agar products unko acha laga. Because in India, they have another generics presence where they kind of like the revenue pie is not that huge, but still they have a good presence here in Indian markets. So generics mein jo bhi aayega, so they are on lookout for any generics company, SME company, or those kind of thing. And that acquisition always is on the cards. Another thing which kind of like proves their focus onto the biologics and this thing is they have also kind of cell gene के साथ cell gene therapeutics. तो cell and gene therapy के लिए उन्होंने उनके साथ में tie up, not tie up, I cannot say tie up kind of thing, but they have invested certain amount in there. Because of that, they have shook hands. They are kind of like working as a partner. This is more focused on cell and gene therapy. This is something for the future. कि अगर कुछ हुआ उसमें cell and gene therapy में if we crack something, since they are the partners, they will also reap part of the fruits of it. So that is how they are kind of like trying to diversify. Expanding into emerging market, it's the part of that the geographic expansion, which I told already. And it makes sense for them because, like I said, they have done the hard work. They have the medicine ready. They have got done all the hard work. Only thing is now they want to replicate the distribution whole channel and how to push the new generic drug into a new market. Easier said than done. बोलने के लिए काफी आसान है, but then when you go into new geography, there is always that challenges. The bigger challenge will be lack of brand name of Natco Pharma in that new geography, right? That is where in some cases what they do is they tie up with a local pharma company who is big in that particular geography, do a partnership kind of thing, and then that company will do the major marketing, sales, distribution, those kind of things, and they will get a share of pie, and Netco gets their share of pie. So that is how they are expanding into different markets now. Agrochemicals, I already kind of talked about. They are thinking of like 200 to 300, 400 crores in the next 3 years. They should be targeting over there. And like I said, their focus, because they are good into research, they are good into formulation, reverse engineering bhi karte hai. So their focus is more into kind of like environment friendly pesticides or herbicides. Or for example, now that they are going into biologicals, they can also come up and do some research on the parasites and all, which kind of, for example, and this just I'm doing it extempore, so they might be targeting only the weeds rather than the crop, right? So those are the things which come into the play. So that agrochemical space is something which they are betting big upon. But having said that, at least for the next 2 years, I don't see the agrochemical side. It is a investment phase right now. For the next 2 years, at least we shouldn't expect much top line, bottom line from that. It is more of a building up that particular subsidiary. And once it attains scale in say 2-3 years, then it will start contributing directly to the top line, bottom line also. So on the top, if you see, I'm talking about launch of generic Revlimid. Revlimid is a current blockbuster drug, which is for oncology for the cancer treatment. And Natco was able to file the para 4 clearing on this particular drug, and they got 6-month exclusivity. So 6-month exclusivity मिलने के वजह से that revenue potential is huge here. And in 2026, sometime they will have this, the market opens up, and kind of 2026, the whole year they have this, but 2027 early is when the exclusivity and lapses for both the innovator as well as the generics. So 2027 अचानक में भीड़ आ जाएगी where all the generics player, they will jump into this fray because the patent right has expired. Exclusivity is gone. So 2027 mein, what they are earning currently from their blockbuster drug will kind of start tapering down. Not because one fact is all the generics player come into play and hence the prices will take a hit. But then because the prices has taken a hit, one way of looking at that is new markets will also open up. When I say new markets, not necessarily geographic, it can also be within the USA. Example, if I talked about that semaglutide GLP-1, right? Weight management का अगर आज मेरे पास 1000 USD per month जा रहा है तो it is out of reach of many people. But because the exclusivity has lapsed, too many generic players have jumped into the fray. 1000 USD, if it comes down into 150 USD, then suddenly जो पहले X खाली लोगों को cater कर रहा था, that X becomes like 4X or 5X just because of the fact that the prices have scaled down like anything. That is what I mean by opening up the markets. So Revlimid is still going to be a big drug for them the whole of 2026. In fact, one of the last con call अगर Q3 का देखेंगे तो they are still expecting like 20% growth in 2026. But 2027 is where the market is worried about because then it becomes open for all. तो जो ज्यादा डिस्काउंट देगा अंडरकटिंग कर लेगा एंड जिसका अगर समझो ब्रांड नेम भी है जेनेरिक्स में भी there are different XYZ reasons where one generic company can take a leap over others. So that risk is always going to be there. But having said that, today the exclusivity still is with Natco, at least for the 2026, along with the innovator. They have also done mitigation with the innovator and all. So 2026, still the revenue will come in huge for Revlimid. 2027 onwards, it becomes open for all, and that is a risk factor. And we need to figure out how Natco traverses that path. when that is some crystal ball grazing, and we will be able to know only Q4 of 2026 at best. कि वहाँ पे देखेंगे कि क्या हो रहा है, कैसे हो रहा है बोल के. But because of that uncertainty is what that price is taking a hit is what my belief is, because अगर Revlimid मेरे पास निकल गया इनके पास से, and if there is no other blockbuster coming in and replacing its value, then the earnings will take a hit, the bottom line, top line will take a hit, and so will the financial ratios. And that is where, like I said, it is a non-linear growth, तो वो लाल वाला period में enter कर सकता है. But then we will also see their pipelines, and we will see कि whether we have anything else in the pipeline which can make that play. I'll move on to the next slide. Before kind of like going into the pipeline, I'll kind of like cover some of the risk factors. Regulatory risk USA है, तो regulatory risk is always going to be there. तो उसको avoid नहीं कर सकते. And when I say regulatory, more so in case of the business model that Natco Pharma is following, क्योंकि उसका तो काम ये है कि पहले तो मैं जो ड्रग एग्जिस्टिंग है इनोवेटर ने लाया, मैं उसको चैलेंज करूंगा. पैरा 4 में मैं इसको चैलेंज करके सक्सीड होऊंगा तो आई गेट 6 month एक्सक्लूसिविटी. दैट इज इट्स फोकस. बट ये वो इजी पाथ नहीं होगा, बिकॉज इनोवेटर इज गोइंग टू फाइट नेल एंड टूथ फॉर दैट, राइट? सो दिस रेगुलेटरी रिस्क इज ऑलवेज देयर इज एन ऑलवेज एन अनसर्टेनिटी, क्योंकि वी डोंट नो हाउ द व्हाट द आउटकम इज गोइंग टू बी. अब लेकिन आउटकम क्या होगा वो नहीं पता होगा, तो भी Natco still has to invest in R&D. They have still need to pump in money so that they have the solution ready, right? Without solution ready, कहाँ जाके किसको challenge करेंगे? But the risk there is, the whole uncertainty there is, if they fail into that litigation, they will get zilch. कुछ नहीं मिलना है उनको, and that all the investment will go down the drain. But then that is a risk. Intense competition, as I said, इनोवेटर का एक्सक्लूसिव लैप्स होगा जो अभी रेवलीमिड का होने वाला है 2027 में. Then all the generic manufacturer comes and jump to the fray and kind of like they try to undercut the competition, right? And that is where this phrase comes into play, falling off the cliff syndrome. Why do they call it falling off the cliff syndrome? क्योंकि जब तक एक्सक्लूसिविटी है इनोवेटर का है, तो वो तो प्राइस तुम्हारा 90% 80% का उसमें रहेगा. When the generics player come into play and get 6 months exclusivity, 90% price का हो सकता है कि 70% 50% हो जाए. But the moment exclusive lapses for both innovator as well as the generics player, basically I'm saying कि patent expire हो गया and all the generics player jump into the fray, the prices can be undercut as high as like 90%, 80%, 95% तक भी जाता है. And that is why it is, when you look at the chart, it is falling off the cliff. Google करेंगे तो दिख जाएगा. So that is the falling of the cliff. So intense competition is always going to be there. Within India itself, like generics, US based focus market में भी देखेंगे तो all the big pharma players which are coming, they are going to be competition to Natco Pharma, be it Dr. Reddy, be it Lupin, be it Solara, be it any other pharma company which you can think of, Biocon and others. There will be competition. And then US में तो और countries के generics player भी आ जाएंगे. So that is that. Legal risk we already talk about, front end and litigation cost, क्योंकि तुम किसी का patent challenge कर रहे हो. So kind of workaround for them was to work with a local US partner. We will see how that unfolds going forward. Acquisition risk, for example, we talked about Genesis को उन्होंने 80 crores में ले लिया because they are betting कि they will get their foot into the biologics and biosimilar. But then when you are investing this money, the outcome is something which you are hoping for. It is not a certainty. अब कल को पता चला कि कुछ हो गया, now somebody kind of like comes and says कि human rights violation हो रहा है, तुम कैसे ये कर सकते हो? We cannot have an animal organ transplanted to humans. I don't know. I'm just thinking aloud over here. तो एक्विजिशन तो वो टाइम पे उन्होंने करना है बिकॉज वैल्यू फॉर मनी दिख रहा है, स्ट्रेटेजिक फिट दिख रहा है, दे डू इट, बट दे माइट नॉट नेसेसरली गेट द रिटर्न्स. इट इज एन अनसर्टेन थिंग विच दे आर बेटिंग ऑन. Obviously they will do their due diligence and they will try to kind of bring the house to their favor where they are having a success chances of like 60-70. But then there is always an extreme कि वो 20-30% risk अगर materialize हो गया तो that investment goes kaput. So that is a risk again. Pipeline development risk is the one which is most crucial for Natco. कि तुम्हारा pipeline तो होना है, right? I will during this presentation I have highlighted certain con call snippets which I will talk when I reach that slide. But pipeline development चाहिए ही चाहिए because you cannot rely on one or two drugs, because temporary तुमको देगा वो, but उसका life है. Because we know at some point of that exclusivity is going to be taken away. It becomes open for all. And then the revenue contribution for that blockbuster drug is going to come down strategically down. बहुत drastically down आ जाएगा. So you have to have pipeline where some other blockbuster drug kind of steps up and then again gives those exponential returns. So this is very much needed. US FDA audits, so matlab, for every Indian pharma company, even though like whatever big names we talk about like Sun Pharma, we talk about Lupin, Dr. Reddy, कहीं ना कहीं तो आता ही है कि कुछ तो हो गया, कुछ warning मिल गया. Natco till last quarter, 2 quarters in fact, in their 40 years of existence, there was never a NC when I say ki severe non-conformity where US FDA has come out and because of that they will stop the drug. उनके साथ कभी हुआ ही नहीं था. So this was a big feather in the cap for Natco. But having said that, Murphy's Law, right? When I pick up this company for presentation, एक quarter पहले उनको एक warning आया for one of their manufacturing capacity. This was for drug Oplaparib. Oplaparib is another cancer oncology related drug. But Natco is very nimble that way for the market size and for the way it deals with it. So what it did was, instead of waiting and try to rectify all this and kind of getting recertified by the US FDA, it simply moved all the production to Alembic Pharma and Alembic ko bol diya ki we will do a tie-up and I will give you this share. And then it submitted to US FDA and that got approved. That was a shortcut, I agree. And because of that, there is a potential revenue loss. क्योंकि अगर तुमको वो ओप्लापिरिप का मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में समझो तुमको एक्स अमाउंट आने वाला है, अभी तुमने सिंस एलेम्बिक फार्मा को वो डाउनलोड कर दिया कि आउटसोर्स के जैसा कर दिया, तो यू विल काइंड ऑफ गेट ओनली से 50% ऑफ द शेयर. 50-50 का उन्होंने टाई अप कर लिया. But another way of looking at it, the way I look at it is they saved that 50% because otherwise 6 months, 3 to 6 months, they would have to rectify all the warnings which US FDA has given for their manufacturing plant, and then after that go through the approval process again, and you never know how that goes, right? They cut out all that uncertainty. US FDA से उसका करा लिया, approval आ गया, and that is up and running in the sense कि वो Oplaparib वहाँ पे अभी manufacture होने लग गया. That again gives brownie points to the management in my view. कि adversity आ रहा है, they tackle that. At times with a revenue share, I still think it's a 50% win for them rather than 50% loss. Otherwise, उनका time भी जाना था and they would not be ready. And with the generics, what happens? There is a certain window you get wherein you have to capture the market. वो capture the market करने में अगर तुम्हारा production ही कम पड़ गया, तो that is not a win-win game, right? That's a very unpleasant situation and one wouldn't be like to go there. So US FDA audits, it's always going to go थोड़ा लटकता तलवारी है in all pharma companies in India, but it is what it is. Currency fluctuations, so yes, we know like dollar is strengthening and rupees is kind of going down. Obviously, I am assuming since they are in this for 40 years, they will have their hedging bets and all, but then the bets can go here and there. So hence I have notified it as a risk over there. Finally, operational risk, it's a more of a generic one, but then more in case of Natco. They have to get everything right. They have to get the right vendor, right suppliers, right distributors, right local partner in USA where they are focusing more. वहाँ पे undercut है. There has to be a trust and all where they are not undercutting each other, right? Because what happens is they are going to get a small certain window where they will have a option to flood the market with their product. वो window चला गया तो then they kind of get clubbed with rest of the generic player where, believe me, the earnings will be not that great because everybody is trying to undercut each other and hence the margin will be pathetic. That exclusive period is the time where the margins can be as high as like 40%, 50%, 60% even. So that is where they need to, operational wise, they need to get each and everything right. So this is what I wanted to cover on the risks side. I'll just keep it here. This is a SWOT analysis. Strength side mein we already talked about. We talked about diversified product portfolio. So oncology mein hai CNS, then we have cardiovascular, So all high niche areas and where the revenue from the drug is going to be a blockbuster if they make it. Strong R&D capabilities. In one of the subsequent slides, I will show you like what are the different drugs in the pipeline and already launched. And you will see 40 years existence mein hai, and it is doing good. So it is doing something right? So R&D capabilities, so they are already there, and that is going to be their DNA. Everything is hinged on that R&D only. Geographic diversification we talked about. Agrochemical expansion is something, a new revenue stream which they are looking at. Similarly, biologics and biosimilar. One is the e-Genesis acquisition. Second, which I have not mentioned over here, but talked about. Celgene के साथ में उन्होंने around कुछ $90 million USD invest करके they are doing something on the cell and gene therapy. तो stem cell लेके they are coming up with the biosimilars. So that is the way the whole industry kind of veering towards. So Natco Pharma is also preparing itself for the upcoming onslaught of new kind of drugs and a new kind of cure. On the weakness side, the biggest weakness is going to be the non-linear model of the business, right? If they get their drugs right, they will always be in the plus side. But sometimes the market cycle goes down or the business cycle goes down, or just a fact that due to some reason, litigation, US FDA approval, they are not able to come up with the blockbuster drug on the right time. The earnings side will be in a lull, they will take a hit, and that becomes a big weakness. High legal and regulatory risk. I've told you, like, it's going to be a painful task, but then what they do is they do their revenue share with a local US company, and the local US company lifts most of the weight there. Volume limited agreements. Okay, this I kind of didn't tell, so let me tell you that again. Means I should have covered first. When we talked about the innovator and the generics, innovator gets a 20 years ka exclusivity, right? But then the generics player, especially like companies like Natco Pharma, जो para 4 में जाके filing करता है, where it is challenging the patent itself, कि भैया तेरे को patent ही क्यों मिला? And since they are able to prove that, they get 6-month exclusivity. But 6-month exclusivity में क्या होता है कि they will not get 100% production right of okay, let me take one step back. A new drug आ गया मेरे को मार्केट में, समझो आई एम जस्ट थ्रोइंग नंबर्स हियर. मार्केट में मेरे पास 1000 ड्रग्स का मार्केट है. 1000 ड्रग्स, 1000 कैप्सूल्स मैं इंट्रोड्यूस कर सकता हूँ. इनोवेटर के पास तो 20 years का एक्सक्लूसिविटी है, तो पूरा 1000 वो हर दिन वो बनाते रहेगा, बेचते रहेगा. जेनेरिक्स विल नॉट गेट द होल 1000 वाला कैपेसिटी, फुल मार्केट एक्सेस नहीं होगा उसको. At the initial time, it will just be like less than 1/6 or 1/5, and it kind of gradually increases. And over a period of 6 months, it comes to 1/3 या 1/2 तक आता है वो. They will still not get full वाला capacity ला ही नहीं सकता है वो, because the FDA and other government regulatory authorities are trying to protect the innovator, because they are the one who have invested most money in getting this drug into the market and made it a success. So this is what I mean by volume limited agreements. This is more than agreement. It is a law and a regulation where they say कि you will get access to the market in a piecemeal fashion. तुम आते ही 100% कैपेसिटी में वर्क नहीं कर सकते हो. तुम्हारे पास भले मैन्युफैक्चर करने का कैपेसिटी हो, बट विल कैप योर्स how much you can introduce into the market, and there is well set formula for that, and they have to follow that. So obviously this will have their effects on the revenues and all, but still better than other generics because they have got that exclusivity because of the FTF, which is the first to file. Natco Pharma has been US for so long and it has introduced so much drugs, but then what happens? There is still a limited brand recognition. This is again a part of the regulatory body to protect rights of the innovator. For example, Revlimid जो मैंने बोला था, वो तुम्हारा कैंसर का ट्रीटमेंट है और इनोवेटर ने निकाला, वो नाम से वो फेमस हो गया. नाउ द मार्केट इज अवेयर कि रेवलिमिडेट का मेरे को कैप्सूल चाहिए फॉर कैंसर ट्रीटमेंट. नाउ व्हेन दिस कम्स अप विद अ जेनेरिक्स रिप्लेसमेंट फॉर दैट, नेटको कैन नॉट यूज द सेम ब्रांड नेम, क्योंकि वो क्या हो जाता है, देन इट लीड्स टू कंफ्यूजन. तो रेवलिमिडेट वेरी एक्सक्लूसिव राइट ऑफ द इनोवेटर इटसेल्फ. तो वहाँ पे सेल्जिनी है जो बेच रहा है वो BMS के साथ में, दे आर द इनोवेटर्स. So when this comes, Natco Pharma comes, it has to come up with a new generic name. तो जो formulation उसमें key ingredient लगता है उसका कोई नाम ले सकता है, but it cannot go up with the same name. So because of that, what happens? Every time they introduce a new drug, it will come up with a new name and all. तो थोड़ा brand recognition का प्रॉब्लम हो जाता है, बिकॉज एंड ऑफ द डे Natco Pharma is not that well recognized in the US pharma space, right? I'll move on to the opportunities. Expansion of product line hai. So these are the pipelines which I talk about. I will talk about more detail in the next slide. Agrochemical, we talked about it. First to market generics. So it has always been a focus of Natco to go for the first to market. Already uska pipeline mein, I think there are like about 7 FTF and which are in pipeline. तो जैसे जैसे पीस मिल अप्रूवल आते जाएगा, they get 6 month exclusivity for each of the drug. That is very strongly in focus of Natco, and that is where they make the big money. Biologics and biosimilar is the next growth area, so that is counted as an opportunity over there. Coming to the threats, we talked about loss of exclusivity, then the prices kind of fall off the cliff, and then revenues kind of थोड़ा वो limited हो जाता है. It is not an exponential run anymore. Regulatory hurdles we have talked about, patent litigation we have talked about. Today we can take it as a threat that it is more dependent on US market. What happens US market में, अभी मैं बोल रहा था कि brand recognition limited है. कभी पता चला कि कुछ ड्रग फेल हो गया या दे जेनरिक्स किया था, in spite of all their due diligence, that drug has an adverse effect. नाम खराब होने में, बदनाम होने में, when they will become more notorious, right? So dependence on US market then becomes a risk factor कि वहाँ पे कुछ negative sentiment आ गया तो suddenly the revenue stream is gone. But then proactively Natco Pharma is going into geographical expansion. It is on their sites and they are taking that as a new revenue streams and they are kind of trying to mitigate that threat. Intense competition तो कुछ नहीं कर सकते. It is nature of the business. It is going to be there. I'll move on to the next slide now. Yeah, I wanted to have this separate slide and I'm glad I put it over here because then I will also get to talk about 1 or 2 more companies which I'm very aggressively tracking and kind of some I have taken position in also. Everybody means investor worth his salt already has heard about semaglutide GLP-1 क्योंकि US में it's a blockbuster hit. Many celebrity have endorsed it and it's already earned billions and $billion for the innovators right now. अभी when I say that 20 year का पीरियड ना 2032 में USA में इनोवेटर को एक्सक्लूसिव राइट्स है. तो 2032 we are in 2024. There is going to be certain time before which the generics player can go into that GLP-1 wala opportunity. But then there is a twist and turn. There are so many variations to it. ना, it kind of becomes difficult to track of it. ये exclusivity जो 20 years का है वो USA के लिए ही limited है. When I come out of the USA, they treat it as, they kind of term it as rest of the world. Typical American attitude, right? एक मेरा अमेरिका है और फिर rest of the world है. Rest of the world में they will not give that whole 20-year exclusivity period, and before that it will come. So GLP-1 somewhere in 2026 is going to open up in rest of the world, not in America. America, see, when it opens up in America for generic player like Natco, that is where the money is, that is where we will get. But having said that, rest of the world, अगर मेरे को 2032 में ही मिलना है, वो वेट करने से तो एटलीस्ट मैं रेस्ट ऑफ द वर्ल्ड में आई विल ट्राई टू सेल इट इफ आई क्रैक द कोड, राइट? And fortunately here Natco Pharma, like I said, it is always proactive. It always does that para 4 filing. GLP-1 में भी उसने FTF फाइल किया है, and GLP-1 का there are 2 states I have already talked about it. One is the diabetes management drug which is called Ozempic and Wegovy for the weight management. अभी जो diabetes management का है ये इसने क्रैक कर लिया है Natco ने. When I say क्रैक कर लिया है, they have challenged the patent, they have won the patent and they have already got FTF rights. मतलब whenever the market opens, be it rest of the world or be in US, they will have that 6 month exclusivity. GLP-1 is already a big blockbuster drug. There is a big cash which is tied to it and Natco is going to get that pie. At this point of time, it is assumption management also, since it is a big vague, they cannot come outright and commit it. So they say कि 2026 में कभी तो हम rest of world में करेंगे. But then joining the dots and listening to various interviews and all, March 2026 is the time I think where they will introduce it to Canada, Brazil and India. These 3 markets they are kind of targeting. March 2026 ज़्यादा दूर नहीं है, quarter दूर ही है. So we'll have to quarter and quarter try to track what is the opportunity, what is the scale and what is the revenue potential there. But GLP-1 is going to be huge. तो वहाँ पे again Natco has cracked the code. It has successfully filed. But when I say file, क्या होता है GLP-1, like I said, there are two strains, right? One is the Ozempic one. Ozempic को crack करके वो patent जीत भी लिया है, and it has got the FTF. That is a done deal. Wegovy का it is still under litigation. The result has not come out, so we still have to wait for that result. Natco Pharma का management con call में तो बोलता है कि they are very hopeful. That is all they can say because it is not an done deal, right? So they are saying कि we are very hopeful that we will get it too. तो अगर Wegovy भी उनको मिल गया, which is going to be have more revenue aspect just because कि वो lifestyle disease हो गया ना, तुम weight management को ये देख रहे हो, target कर रहे हो. So that is one which we have to get more clarity on. But generics already ready है, and since 2026 में rest of the world open हो जाएगा, which will be probably March and or at the most April में, I think the production also has already started. So this Natco has already started the production now. अब उसमें US में क्या होता है कि when we talk about a drug, then the drug itself will have different variations to it. मेरा 20 मिलीग्राम का ये इंजेक्ट में इतना फ्यूल करूंगा, 20 ml का करूंगा, 10 ml का करूंगा, 5 ml का करूंगा, एंड ईच ऑफ देम विल हैव, मतलब सबके लिए एक एक लिटिगेशन तुमको केस लड़ना पड़ेगा और विन करना पड़ेगा. जो ओजेम्पिक का 3 स्ट्रेन्स है, वो 3 स्ट्रेन्स अभी इसके पास है, नेटको के पास में. सो दैट इज द गुड साइड, गुड न्यूज, वेयर आई सी certainty in earnings for Natco in the coming years too. Now GLP-1 itself, if I talk about कि supply chain क्या होगा, कैसा होगा, तो 4 parts में मैं divide करता हूँ. One is the how is that, what is the constituent of the drug itself, active pharma, what is the API. तो API वाला जो field है उसमें Divis Lab, I think just because of the scale and the fact that API is the king in Indian markets, it has got a good heads up there, so it is in the contention. But apart from that, there are other people who are also fighting for the API pie with different partnerships. Newland Lab is there, Piramal Pharma is there, Dr. Reddy itself is there. Natco has tied up with Strides Pharma, and Stride Pharma, see, GLP-1 का क्या होता है? It's a peptide, right? अगर मेरे को पेप्टाइड बनाना है तो स्ट्राइड फार्मा खुद करेगा नहीं, तो it has to outsource it to someone कोई नहीं, it will outsource to Solara Active Pharma only. Why? क्योंकि उसका सिस्टर कंसर्न डिमर्ज होके आया है वो. राइट नाउ सोलारा इज अ टर्न अराउंड स्टोरी. सो आई एम बेटिंग बिग ऑन सोलारा एक्टिव फार्मा. दैट इज समथिंग विच यू गाइज नीड टू ट्रैक एंड काइंड ऑफ जॉइन द डॉट्स. उनका लास्ट कॉन कॉल में भी देखोगे तो वन इन्वेस्टर वेरी पॉइंटेडली प्रोब्ड सेइंग कि पेप्टाइड्स आप खुद के लिए मैन्युफैक्चर करने वाले हो या आर यू ओपन फॉर मेक पेप्टाइड्स फॉर अदर्स ऑल्सो. दे सेड फॉर ऑल because it's a business model, right? So certain dots which you have to join, I might be very well wrong in that because the management itself has not come and joined that dot for in Solara Active Pharma. But Solara Active Pharma, I think, can be one of the beneficiaries अगर नेटको को GLP-1 का प्रोडक्शन राइट मिल गया तो. एंड ओजेम्पिक तो 3 स्ट्रेन्स ऑलरेडी आ गया है. वीगो इज व्हाट वी आर वेटिंग फॉर. सो नेटको आई थिंक विल बी अ विनर. स्ट्राइड्स Pharma का related, Solara Active Pharma is another one which can be a winner. Now GLP-1 ecosystem में देखेंगे तो second one is device and injectable. It's a injection basically. Now injection भी अभी 2 टाइप में होता है. एक टाइप होता है कि तुम्हारा 1 shot होगा और एक होगा कि multi shots. When I say 1 shot, it is 1 shot करके use and throw है वो. बेसिकली उसका क्या है, वीक में अगर तुमको एक भी इंजेक्शन लेना है तो एक साल में तुमको 52 लेना पड़ेगा. यूज एंड थ्रो है तो दैट इज वेयर मल्टी इंजेक्शंस कम इनटू प्ले. यू विल बी सरप्राइज GLP-1 पे अगर समझो, आई एम जस्ट अगेन एज्यूमिंग सम नंबर्स, अगर समझो GLP-1 के लिए इनोवेटर ने बोला कि दिस आर माय 100 पेटेंट बिकॉज ऑफ विच आई वाज एबल टू डिस्कवर GLP-1. सो अगर ये 100 पेटेंट में तुम कुछ भी ओवरलैप होता है तो आई कैन सू यू. तो फॉर्मुलेशन और एपीआई में 100 ही पेटेंट है, बट डिवाइस इंजेक्टेबल में देर इज 2x 3x नंबर ऑफ पेटेंट. देर इज लाइक 300 और 400 पेटेंट ऑन द डिवाइस. वो इंजेक्शन तुम कैसे दोगे, वो कैसा ड्रग रिलीज करेगा, प्रॉपर क्वांटिटी कैसा आएगा, कहाँ जाना है, देर आर 3x द नंबर ऑफ पेटेंट्स ऑन द डिवाइस. एंड बिकॉज ऑफ दैट व्हाट हैपेंस, वो डिवाइस को अभी इतना करने के लिए मगजमारी करने के बदले जो ऑलरेडी 3-4 प्लेयर है यूएस में, दे आर द वंस who have tied up with the innovator and they will rule the roost where they will get the money. In India, there is only Siley Engineering, which is at the forefront. Why? Because they have already come up with the injection for insulin management, right? Diabetes है किसी को, तो it's a fact of life कि उनको frequent basis पे insulin injection लेना ही पड़ता है. तो Siley Engineering was supposed to be a commodity player where वो kind of like syringe बना रहा है, drug delivery कर रहा है. But today it has got into, by serendipity, it has got into that sweet spot जहाँ पे उसका जो इंजेक्शन वाला मैकेनिज्म है दैट इज 70% कंप्लाइंट. व्हेन आई से 70% कंप्लाइंट मींस 70% वो कोई भी पेटेंट जो 300-400 पेटेंट फाइल हुआ है उसमें कोई भी पेटेंट को इन्फ्रिंज नहीं कर रहा है. इट इज देयर ओन प्रोटोटाइप डेवलप्ड एंड इट इज एग्जिस्टेंस फॉर इंसुलिन मैनेजमेंट. It will be a big player there, and that is where if you see on the past 6 months, 7 months, Siley Engineering is on fire. So Siley Engineering from a device injectable medical device perspective, let's put it that way, Siley Engineering is going to be in a sweet spot. Again, since I'm kind of like I said, I am an optimistic person. I kind of like try to view from a investable perspective. At times, I will come out thinking, my arguments will come that way कि this is a done deal and certain thing. नहीं, ऐसा नहीं होता है. Second thing is, this is not an investment advice. I'm sharing my thesis with you. I would be very glad post presentation, even after a week or so, people do their due diligence. They have questions, they come back, they come up with cons. That is what I'm looking for, and take it in that perspective. So certain things which I like I said, Natco Pharma is there, Solar Active is there, Siley Engineering is there. These are the three things, three companies which I'm kind of like very positive on. I give my reason for it. But then there might be others who can come into play, right? Because जैसा semaglutide GLP-1 का एक strain है ना, there is another called liraglutide. Liraglutide में Biocon has यूरोप का पूरा rights Biocon के पास है. So that's why API में Biocon का नाम भी आना चाहिए. So we have to research more, we have to dwell more. This is a vast thing, and we kind of like due diligence बहुत लगेगा. And being an engineer, frankly, this specialty chemicals pharma, at times it becomes tough and challenging for me. So that is where any kind of like points, counterpoints that you guys share with me, more than welcome. And that is how we grow and kind of like strengthen up our thesis. So this is my thesis, which I'm sharing. This is my understanding of it. I might be very wrong on it also. That is all I'm trying to say. So within the GLP-1 ecosystem, we talked about active pharma, API, we talked about device, we talked about FII finishing. One source recently demerged from STI. Expertise spans pre-filled syringes, cartridges, and oil. One source is again, it's my apologies. अरे किधर मैं आगे भाग गया? Sorry about that.
Just a small time check, Amar, for you. Okay.
I will wrap up now in next 5 to 10 minutes. Sorry about that. Yeah. So FII finishing, one source is there, Gland Pharma, because just for the fact that it is going, Gland Pharma is a big player in injectables, right? So that is why I mentioned it over there. Innovator generics, Natco Pharma, as I said, FTF is approval with Viatris. Viatris is the local partner in USA for them. It is already has FTF for Ozempic, certain strains. Vigoica, it is still WIP. When I say WIP, litigation का बात चल रहा है. Biocon has EU approvals, and Sun Pharma has announced phase 1 result for its GLP-1 candidate, which is utraglutide. It's a different strain of it. I'll move on to the next slide. This is the earning con call snippets which I talked about. Like I said, you can go in detail once you have the presentation. I will like to highlight one. There was a question, one of the retail investor on the con call, they asked a question and they said कि भैया ये मतलब the gist of it was कि Natco Pharma तो moonshot play करता है, छक्का लग गया तो लग गया, नहीं तो बाउंड्री पे कैच आउट हो जाओगे तुम, वैसा वाला हिसाब में. Then here it says, minutes ago, I think our generic filings are moonshot is a little bit harsh word. उसने moonshot word के use किया और management को बुरा लग गया. They clarified. Minutes ago, I think our generic filings are moonshot is a little harsh word. I would believe, I think there's some method to the madness. It is not a moonshot. तो बोल रहा है कि नहीं मैं अंधा नहीं खेल रहा है, 40 साल से बिजनेस किया हुआ है. I will come to the technical, I will show you the chart structure also. So he said, no, it's not a moonshot. There is a method to the madness. We know what we are doing. So don't kind of like say कि अंधा bet मार रहे हैं. That is the basic gist of it. I will let you guys read about this. But here it says, Post Revlimid, there are two drugs which they are counting big on. One is semaglutide and the other is oplaparib, which is for the cancer one. There are other, this whole thing section, if you look at it, this is the non-linear model which comes into play. I will read out the last one, which I think is important. And I think the idea here is that you will build up all these 10 to 15 businesses, sorry, 10 to 15 products. And then even if you get 7 or 8 right, 10-15 में से 7-8 तो right होगा over a period of decade. I think you have done a great job. If you look at our profitability, I mean, I can be a little modest in telling that our margins and profitability is definitely the top 10 pharma companies in India. But again, what you need to live with as an investor is probably the volatility. I think that is the challenge we face in our non-linear model. So basically, management also acknowledges, but he says, I have delivered. We will see whether they have delivered or not. I come to the technical analysis. I'm trying to wrap it down now. So technical analysis, I have broken it down into two, short-term time frame and a long-term time frame. Short-term time frame मैं 1 साल का लिया हूँ. So 18 September 2023 is where the golden crossover happened, and after that it went into the stage still. It's moving. But here right itself, if you look at it, September के बाद से पूरा market ही गिर रहा है, तो उसमें ये भी गिर रहा है, because Q3 result में ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं था which should lead to the fall. But having said that, there is a falling wedge pattern over here. Now falling wedge pattern, you can interpret it either ways. One thing is obviously it's a bearish signal because price नीचे जा रहा है. It's becoming lower highs and lower lows, right? But अगर मेरा strong momentum में अगर falling wedge आ रहा है, तो it can also be a bullish sign, because what is happening is जो मेरा bearish sign है, it is getting constricted. मेरे sellers कम होते जा रहे हैं. At some point of time, it should bounce back from there. So that is how I look at this shorter time frame of 1 year for the technical analysis part. On the next slide, I will look at the longer time frame where I actually have taken, like, for example, if you look at it, it is from 2005 onwards, I think. 2005 से जो parallel channel बना है, the price has not violated that the parallel channel. It is respected the boundaries. That gives me a big comfort. The yellow part, if you look at it, this is where the shaded part is, and that is where it went into time-wise consolidation. But then somewhere in 1st April 2024, there was a breakout of this rectangular time consolidation, price consolidation. April को breakout किया, but September से वापस थोड़ा गिरने को आ गया है. This is what I mentioned, targets and all based on my understanding. You guys take a look, but at this point of time, what I would like to say is currently price is 1235. 1150 is a very strong support. 1150 अगर break करेगा, then we need to see what happens, how it happens. But then if you are going to look at a longer time period and you are not taking it as a trading short, I think money can still be made over here. That is my reading of the chart over here. Just as a disclaimer, I have already taken 2 lots of this particular share. I never invest my money in one chunk. तो मेरा allocation अगर 4% Natco Pharma में जाना है, तो मैं पहले 1% या 0.5% डालूंगा. That is what I mean by lots. So here also you guys can do that way, in the sense कि 1150 base रख के उसके monitor the price and then kind of like take it from there. But study this and see how it goes from there. I will not spend much time over here, but this is my conclusion slide. Whatever I have talked about, I have to put it as a revision kind of thing here. On the left hand side, you are seeing all the drugs which have already been launched and have earned money for Natco Pharma. One mistake happened. Oplaparib should have been on the right side. If this is still in the pipeline, it has not come. It will come only after 1.5 years. That is the cancer drug. And on the right hand side, the current one is Revlimid, which is blockbuster. Semaglutide is the next one. But there are 3 more which are in the pipeline. So this kind of gives you like what has already been done, what is in the pipeline. And this kind of does a revision of what is my thesis about. 4+ decades in the operation, differentiated business model, distributed partnership with domestic pharma company to take care of the litigation and regulatory things. आगे का revenue stream के लिए they are going for geographic diversification. Agrochemical expansion हो रहा है, and they are trying to enter into biologics and biosimilars. So that was my thesis on Natco Pharma. I'm sorry it went a bit long, but then there is so much to cover. Before I end, in this thank you slide also, I have taken 2 covers of annual reports of Natco. Why? I just want to take you to the mindset of the management itself, right? What is the tagline? Proven resilience, unlocking value. Which, if I look at the long-term chart, it's happening. It's in stage throughout if you look at the longer chart, right? And it is into that very narrow parallel channel. And the next one is achieving milestone with agility, which I believe the management is doing it, is walking the talk. So I'm exhausted. I am done with my thesis. Any
Yeah,
questions?
correct.
Please free. Sorry about that. But then you give me the mic, I will speak.
That's why I put you last today.
Thanks, Varman.
Yeah. So, yeah, guys, forum is open for you.
Oh, I bored them to sleep, yeah?
Amar, it was a very wonderful story. At least, I come to know, the 1% of, a bit of, the pharma industry, how all this regulatory works. But it was, very amazing to hear. Not even for a second, I was, kind of, moving away from the screen. So
Thank you,
it was
Yogesh.
a very, very good story to hear. It was not a thesis. You just were telling the story that this is going to happen, this is going to happen. So very enchanting. I have
Thanks,
just,
Yogesh.
a point here where you suggested. One is, in January 2026, I believe they will come into a profit sharing model for this Revlimid. And after, 26, they will go into full generic. This is what I, heard is somewhere in August con call there. So probably
No, the exclusivity lapses in 2027 Jan. So it becomes open for all in 2027 Jan only.
yeah, but somewhere they said that 26 Jan they will give it to Teva. Their profit will be shared with the Teva, some US, as you mentioned, distributor. So this is where the EPS will come down. And somewhere I heard from Sajal Kapoor as well that next year we need to see how it goes up there with profit sharing model and all this. Probably I need to revisit this again. That what if I heard correctly, or it is going to be in January 2027 where it will lose the whole exclusivity there. But so far, somewhere I read it will be in 26. It will come into
So,
profit sharing.
Yogesh, yeah,
Yeah.
I will also have a look at it. You also have a look and share it the group if you find one. But
Yeah,
even
yeah.
if that happens, we still have that 1 year runway, right? No?
Yes,
The
yes,
whole
yes.
of 2025 is still there where the revenues kind of flows. And within that 1 year runway, somewhere in March 2026, the GLP-1 semaglutide will come into play
Come
in
into the
rest of the
picture.
world, not in the USA. USA
Right.
तो 2032 का प्लान है. But at
Right.
least इंडिया में भी अगर ओपन हो गया, इंडिया में अभी
Mhm.
यूएस से कम ओबीस लोग नहीं है यार, मतलब दे विल गो फॉर दैट इफ द प्राइसेस इज विद इन
Right.
द रेंज, दे विल गो फॉर दैट क्यूआर इज
मेरे को
माय
सर एक
फीलिंग.
छोटा सा डाउट है यहाँ पे. दे acquired this Dash Pharmaceuticals, right,
या
for
या
as front end.
या
Yeah. So aren't they exposing themselves too much to the risk there?
yeah. So I am also worried about that, and that is what I told. There are risks from two perspectives, right? One risk is उनका जो पार्टनर यूजुअल पार्टनर्स होते हैं यूएस में, दे विल टेक अपफ्रंट कि भैया
Right.
मेरा बिजनेस क्यों एनक्रोच कर रहा है, तो हमारा तो अच्छा चल रहा था. So
Right.
that is where they can antagonize their existing partner. Second thing, when they are doing distribution, then they are open for litigation also, right? Because अब बचाने तो कोई नहीं आएगा, तो तुम्हारा
And
ध्यान बढ़
it
सकता
will
है.
wipe out. A single litigation could wipe out the brand. This is, somewhere I believe okay, this is
Yeah, but they are still not doing away with the partner model. Litigation
right.
or
Right.
regulatory approval partner ही करेगा. Distribution they will do. I think if I kind of try to be in management side, they might be thinking 40 years से कर रहे हैं, now at least we know what we are getting into and we know how we can do this. So उन्होंने एक छोटा पीसी उठाया, खाली डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन उठाया. अगर वो लोग
Right.
रेगुलेटरी अप्रूवल और लिटिगेशन भी उठाते थे तो then I would have been really worried. So
Right.
on the con side, it can hit them bad. On the plus side, जो percentage share partner को जा रहा था वो अभी इनके bucket में आ जाएगा. So we have to kind of like balance, keep a balance between those two. And if management has taken that decision, I would go with the management at this point of time because they have been delivering. Because that long-term chart, if you look at it, na, it's phenomenal. 45-degree में तो जा रहा है वो.
Right. Right.
So yeah, so that kind of gives me a lot of comfort.
And sir, in one of the slide you mentioned, new land and Shelley Engineering as well.
Yeah,
So
that was the GLP-1 का ecosystem, na?
yes, 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 yes. So
Yeah.
how this came into the radar, Shelley Engineering? This?
डिवाइस लगेगा ना. व्हेन आई वाज रीडिंग आई वाज वेरी सरप्राइज कि GLP-1 का जो फॉर्मूला है ना
हाँ
API का,
हाँ
उस पे अगर समझो X नंबर ऑफ पेटेंट है तो इंजेक्टेबल डिवाइस में 4X नंबर ऑफ पेटेंट है. मैं बोला ऐसा क्या हो गया कि तुम्हारा मॉलिक्यूल से ज्यादा तुम मेडिकल डिवाइस पे 4X नंबर ऑफ पेटेंट ले लिए. So then I realized in the world there are only 3 or 4 in US who are doing that. And then I was trying to find out कि India में कौन करेगा. And then I came into cell engineering, and it has been on a tear away. It has been kind of like पिछला 4 महीने में I think 1,000 से वो 1,600 या 1,700 हो गया है.
right. And
Yeah,
it is
and
still
cell
please
engineering
stay.
was treated more as a commodity business, right? क्योंकि इंसुलिन का
Right.
इंजेक्शन बना रहा था वो. But now
Right.
when I look at it and when I read more about it, वो जो
हम्म,
इतना भी 4X नंबर ऑफ पैटेंट फाइल किया है 60-70% तो ये इन्फ्रिंज ही नहीं कर रहा है, क्योंकि ये तो अपना कोने में बैठ के अपना एक कुछ तो दिमाग लगा के उसने अपना बना लिया. सेरेंपिडिटी है, इट इज इन दैट स्वीट स्पॉट कि 80-70% वो पैटेंट को इन्फ्रिंज ही नहीं कर रहा है. नाउ सडनली it opens up a lots of opportunity not only in the Indian market but probably in the global market if they handle their cards right. So that is where I think it is getting the tailwind, cell engineering. तो
right.
mass producer से suddenly it is going to get into that niche producer वाला
Niche
spot,
producer.
and that तो OPM भी बढ़ जाएगा, margin बढ़ जाएगा.
And his promoter Mike Sangvi is also, a technician, plastic technician. It's I have read about him on
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
but very
I
good
just
promoter.
wanted to mention like certain things which are kind of Natco के साथ में buy one get one free वाला फंडा है ना, कि ये 2 चीज और देख लो, यहाँ पे भी tailwinds आ सकता
Right.
है. Yeah.
I was invested in 2023, still there in this, but yes, this thesis is, very, very wonderful too. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Oh, okay, so let's move to the quiz side of it. So we have a quiz if we have no more questions. Okay, so I will share my screen. Yeah, so the questions are coming up. You can put on the chat itself. So the first question on the Natco Pharma itself. It is targeting what? Respiratory, neuroscience, oncology, vaccination. Amar is also participating. Amar, you don't have to participate for Natco.
No, I gave it deliberately at the end. मैं रुका रहा अभी. At the outset I didn't give it. नहीं, अब मुझे लगा रिवर्स साइकोलॉजी हो गया. पुनीत बोलेगा खुद का प्रेजेंटेशन में आंसर नहीं किया, ऐसे कैसे?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let's stop for this question and we'll move to the another question. Sika Interplant area of operations. Aircraft parts, MRO, aerospace, stamping. Okay. I see mostly. See, the answer is E for this one. But let me check who has given this answer correctly first. Okay, so Mahesh Kamath and Mahesh Bose have given for this one. The above one they have given this answer. Yeah, thank you. So yeah, I will update in the group on this one. So that will lead to the conclusion of this day, second day of ALD4. Thanks to all the presenters. It was very. I would say I was just glued to the screen today. So you guys have taken ALD4 to the next step, I think, today. Thanks a lot. So we'll close the presentation here and we'll catch up tomorrow, same time almost. Okay, guys. Bye.
Thanks, Puneet.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thanks all.